Thank you. Good evening, students. How are you doing? You're all set for your preparations for this wonderful subject, wonderful topic. How are your preparations for the other subjects going on? You should be like started or mostly completed few papers also. In fact, we're starting this very late, right? Because if we do the classes now and end it in November, then you will have need some time for your preparations as well. Correct. So we will work in tandem after my topics, of which I will take till time and value of supply. You will have other faculty who will take you on input tax credit and other things. So be with me, and we'll all sail this paper very easily. Trust me, this is a very interesting paper and very, very lively paper. It is all practical implications. So it will be the best paper for you. And I want everyone to get exemption in this, because this is one paper which will help you to pull other subjects. The CA exams are very tricky, right? So if you get less, or if you get boundary marks in one paper, there should be another paper which should pull you up. So this is what that paper which will pull your other marks, lower marks in any other subject. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. So many people. Jai Jinendra, Sagar Jain, Jai Jinendra. Yes, that's the way we address as we send across wishes in Jainism. Good evening. I'm doing good. Lot of people wishing, and I'm very excited to see so many people joining in. I would wish this equal participation throughout the session and throughout my topic, whichever I cover. Great. So many people. I can't tell out so many people's name, but I can see so many active participation. Very nice. So let's start with my introduction. I am CA Deepak P. I am Deepak P. Jain. I am a chartered accountant, a fellow chartered accountant, and a practicing company secretary. Why company secretary? That's the general question people ask. No specific reason. I finished my chartered accountancy. I was in practice. Then I had qualified my company secretaryship also before or around clearing the chartered accountancy. So I just thought that I should practice in this area. So I am practicing as a company secretary. But trust me, once you do your chartered accountancy course, doing company secretary course becomes very easy. You will feel that it is just a cakewalk for you. So the toughest thing is clearing the chartered accountancy examination. Clear this examination, and I'll tell you, you'll feel so very delighted, so very good. That's the reason you're there, right? So I am a chartered accountant and a practicing company secretary. I operate from Bangalore, which is the main IT city of India. And I can speak in English, Hindi. I need your feedback to know whether you're okay if I give some explanations and some examples in Hindi. Please let me know if anybody has objections in it, so that it will set the pace. What else? I've been practicing since past 12 years. Before the GST was born, we were all working with service tax. I was working with mostly in service tax, some part of excise and customs also. Of course, customs is there now also. But from those days, we are seeing customs and excise. And my association with Institute has been, since this virtual classes started, I've been there with the CA Institute, and I've been there from the first virtual classes itself. It is really exciting to see number of students grow up over the periods which have been there. It is really encouraging to see all. Great, no problem that anybody has no problem. Both languages fine. That is nice. No objection at all. It is really overwhelming for me to join. Very nice. Good students. I am from some student from Nellore. I am logging through ICI website. Live classes, not able to send my feedback in line while attending classes. I'm able to see your feedback, Mr. Shankaran. Please ask all your questions over here. So if I'm able to see it over here, it means you're able to send it, and I'm able to see it. It means we are communicating. Great. There are students from South also, so it'll be good if you use English. But you, Miss S, do you tell me if you are able to understand English and Hindi? That's good, because nobody actually has any objection. So we will communicate with both the languages. Great. So we'll start with introduction of GST. What is our topic? What is the subject? We are into indirect taxation. 4A is direct taxation. 4B is indirect taxation. Our topic is an introduction. So we'll start with basics of GST. I think you can just listen to these classes and just go to the exams for this topic at least, because there's not much of complications in this topic. At the end of the topic, you'll have some constitutional aspects that will be a little complicated, but otherwise these are all general questions, general topics in the first chapter. So this is really good. No need to worry about this. How many students are there? There's so many students. The numbers are not supposed to be disclosed. What I understand is there are 500 plus students. So I'm really excited that yes, in the CA Institute also we have such a number of good faculty members, good number of students joining in. Great. Okay, few people will understand English itself. Fine. So for them, I will explain in Hindi to others, and wherever there is a problem, I will repeat that and translate that in English as well. Your messages are visible. Yes, Mangesh Divakar, your messages are visible. All good. We are all set for the class now. So our class starts from generally 6 o'clock and it will end at 8:30. We'll have a break in between for 10 minutes and then we continue the class again. So that will be the protocol of the class. Okay. So what are we doing today? We are doing to study on GST in India. So what is GST? Why GST? What is GST? It's a goods and service tax. What is a tax? That also we'll understand. Then we'll proceed further. So we'll start with a background. What is taxation and why tax should be paid? Taxation is very important for any country. Like few countries, I would say there is no taxation. They are called tax haven, or a country which does not have tax also is surviving, but they have other means of generating revenue. Like when I went to Dubai in 2018, that is when the taxes was starting in Dubai. Earlier to that, prior to 1st January 2018, there was no taxation in the UAE region itself. So they started taxation in the UAE. So when we went there, we saw that even a single movement, when you have to cross the road, you can peacefully walk. The person who's coming in the car, he will stop and you don't have to stop. Okay, why? But how it happens in India? If some car comes, if you walk, you have to go back. Otherwise, he will slash you, right? ऐसे नहीं होता है कि ट्रैफिक जैम हो गया और आप एक भी पैर आगे रख दिए हो, जिसको ट्रैफिक छूट गया वो कार तो चाहेगा आपको मार के चला जाएगा. लेकिन ऐसी दुबई में नहीं रहता है. दुबई में it is very different. It is very, very disciplined. If you have to cross a road, a passenger, a passerby is given the first priority and a vehicle stops there. Okay, because that is the rule of the law of land over there. And if there is a signal in India, we see that signals are not obeyed. We'll cross the signal if we'll touch the zebra crossing, but there it is very, very strict. Even the car, if he sees that there is no cop, still he will stop at the line which is there. Why? Because there is a huge amount of penalty over there. Here, at least the violation, if we do, the pricing is very less. But there, the pricing of violations are high because there was no taxation. So I could see so much of difference. A country which did not have taxation collected some revenue through fines and other sources. But any country, let it be India or any country, needs funds. Now that fund collection, it can happen either in terms of taxation or in terms of another ways. Okay, so yeah, a few questions already coming in. Please make classes in English as well as Hindi, as I could not understand in Hindi. Great, Shankaran. Are you a qualified chartered accountant and you share your study strategy? Yes, I am a qualified chartered accountant. I will share the study strategy as well as in when we study this. They stop at signal in night also. Yes, Pitladwala, Komeja, I think you've been there. So even at the night time, you'll see that the signals are being followed. Mr. Murtaza Ali, we can see your questions also. So if there's any question, please let us know. Saksham Goenka, yes, I can see your messages also. That's good. Are your notes be uploaded? Yes, my notes will be uploaded. Today's session, I couldn't upload it, but As soon as I finish this session, I will upload it and I will ask the IT team to get it uploaded on the portal as well. नोट्स बनाना है, हाँ अभिषेक जी, नोट्स बनाना है आपको। मेन जो पॉइंट्स याद है यहाँ पे वो उसका लिख लीजिए, क्योंकि मैं तो सिर्फ प्रेजेंटेशन देने वाला हूँ। इस प्रेजेंटेशन पे आपको कितना याद होगा, आपके एग्जाम्स के लिए आपको याद रखना होगा। सो वेयरएवर पॉसिबल मेक योर ओन नोट्स, क्योंकि आपके नोट्स आपको बहुत अच्छी तरह से याद हो जाएंगे। Yes, Uday, your message is also reading. Okay, all your messages are coming. I will not be able to tell everybody's name, but all your messages are coming to me. Should I take private tuitions or ICSE classes are enough? So that's your prerogative, Mr. Krishna. I would suggest that if you dedicatedly study by your own, self-study is the best study. To study by your own and follow these classes, that should be very much sufficient. Okay. So what we are talking? We are talking about taxation. What is taxation? Taxation and why should we pay tax? Okay. So first we should understand how a country works. A welfare, it works in the nature of a welfare state. State means the country. So when we say state, it doesn't refer to individual states. It refers to the whole of the country. The whole of a country also in a macroeconomic terms is called as the state. So each state is not a traditional state wherein they used to only control the imports, exports, or they used to give restrictions. There used to happen something called as a license Raj, wherein I used to set up a manufacturing plant or I have to set up any new business. I have to go to the government for permission. Government was more looking to anybody as a authority, as a doing a policing function, wherein if I need to do anything, I have to go to the government. But that traditional approach of the government is gone. Now, government is a welfare state, wherein they have to do welfare for the citizens, they have to do welfare for the public, and to do welfare of the whole country. Okay, so it is not a policing state; it's a welfare state wherein they have to keep the upkeep of the lives of the citizens. They cannot go with the traditional method of just sitting at there and doing traditional Babu Sahib ka job, wherein they will only give permissions. No, that is not the only role of the state. The state is a welfare state, so they have to spend for the development of the country and the better lives of the citizens. So this spending, how they will do? They will do this through public expenditure. Okay, so this public expenditure, if they have to do, they need to get sources. How will they get? When I used to be a small guy, I used to think, okay, whatever money is printed at the RBI, that goes to the government and the government gets the money and from there they do the spending. But if they keep minting monies like this, the inflation will go up. Why will the inflation go up? Because a lot of money will be in circulation, but the requirement will be less, so the prices will go up. So that is not the way how the government works. It just cannot mint money like that. There is a RBI sitting over there who will control the minting of coins and minting of the notes and the printing of the notes. But how does the money come to the government for this public expenditure? Through taxation, okay, and through other ways. What are the other ways? They will invest in public sector undertakings. This public sector undertakings do the business and give dividends to the government. Then the government borrows loans. Okay, so many other ways are there, but borrowing loans, will it be helpful in the long run? No, because it has to repay. It will have a negative effect on the balance of trade. So taking a lot of loan is also not good. So the government will try to collect a lot of taxes because there's a circulation, right? Whatever spending is happening by the public. So when we buy something, we spend a lot of money on buying it. We are spending on consumption, and in that consumption itself, we pay some taxes. That taxes goes to the government. So government encourages a lot of spendings to happen. So if we spend money, then that money goes to the government in terms of taxation. So this is a circular chain which happens. So the government is best. It is the best source of revenue for the government, because if the public companies give a lot of dividends, then also it is not good, because they will have to keep some money for their investments, right? Plowback of profits into the organization is also important. So they wouldn't encourage a lot of these public sector undertakings to give interest, to give dividends. So best source of revenue for the government is this taxation. Okay, so any country is a welfare state and it has to do public expenditure. That's why it collects taxes. It's a fiscal policy to stimulate the fiscal for policy to stimulate the economic growth. For the economic growth also, it is very important that the taxes are collected. Now, what is tax? Tax is what I pay to the government happily. Have you heard anyone say that I am so happy to pay this much of taxes? No. Everybody crips. Oh, taxation. Why should I pay tax? They realize so much. They'll talk so much about the economy, about the infrastructure. This road is not good. This is not that good. Why should I pay taxes? So that all those thinking comes when they have to pay taxation. So everybody thinks that tax is a burden, and precisely that's the definition of tax. Tax is a pecuniary burden. Pecuniary means involving money. Okay, tax is a burden. They have not said tax is a voluntary payment. Tax is a pecuniary burden itself. Let's see the definition of tax. It's a pecuniary burden laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, a payment which is exacted by legislative authority. So what is tax? Tax is a pecuniary burden which is laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, and it's a payment exacted how? Voluntarily? No, it is a payment exacted by legislative authority. Means there is a power given to the government to collect the taxes. Through that power, they collect the taxes. So it is a payment exacted by a legislative authority. Means the legislative authority should have the power. Okay, by that power, they collect the taxes. How is the power derived from? It is derived from the Constitution. For any taxes to be having a power to give the teeth to any taxes to work, to any law to work, let it be Income Tax Act, let it be GST Tax Act, let it be the erstwhile Service Tax Act. Every act gets power from the Constitution. If the Constitution has mentioned that these taxes can be levied, only then it can be levied, otherwise no. Okay, so will they have mentioned each and every tax over there? Not directly, indirectly they will mention what are all the authorities, what are all the subject matters on which who can collect tax. Like example, so when you buy property, there's something called as stamp duty. Who is levying that? The state government is levying it. Why? It is mentioned in the state list. Like similarly, customs duty is mentioned in the center list. So we have three lists in the Constitution: state list, center list, and concurrent list. If these items are mentioned in those lists, then only then taxes can be collected. Okay, it is not a voluntary payment or donation, but an enforced contribution. Tax is always an enforced contribution exacted pursuant to legislative authority. Clear with the definition of taxation? What is tax? Tax is a burden. Why is it a burden? Because nobody wants to pay it voluntarily. It's a pecuniary burden, which is involving money. The definition is very clear: pecuniary burden laid upon the individuals and landowners to support the government. It is a payment exacted by legislative authority. Okay, so a lot of questions with this. How much time will it take to complete the syllabus? It takes around 20 classes to complete this syllabus. Okay, so each subject makes it different. Our subject will take up approximately 20 classes. Is there any tax-free country in current time? I don't see any tax-free country. All countries mostly collect the taxes itself. Disinvestments, and disinvestment is also a good source of income. Yes, disinvestment is also a good source, but I wouldn't say it's a very good source, because by disinvestment, the government's holding in the sectors in which they want to have control goes off, so it becomes privatized, right? So that is also not a very good source, I would say. Tax is a benefit for us. That's nice. Why? Because once we pay taxes, we get more benefits from the government. Yes, so you need to pay more taxes so that you get better benefits and better facilities, better infrastructure from the government. As you said, that minting more money leads to inflation, but centuries ago, the kings used to collect tax through barter system. Did they not face inflation then? Yes, that time the barter system was there. And what is the question of inflation? Inflation arises when there is money. Okay, but in that point of time, when there is a barter only system which is available, then there is no question of inflation. That there is a commanding, that wherein somebody is sitting over there and is giving money and he gets something in exchange. But that value of money was not recognized then. That's why that didn't continue. Had that not led to problems, we would have continued that, right? So that led to some problem. That's why that barter system is not working efficiently now. Why GST? Yes, why GST will be our next question. We'll come to that. Miss Zufa, am I confident about the quality of these lectures? Yes, it is. I am very much confident. Now, why GST was introduced? हम GST क्यों introduced हुआ उसके बारे में समझेंगे. First is टैक्सेशन दो तरह के होते हैं, डायरेक्ट टैक्स, इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स और टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. डायरेक्ट टैक्स वो होते हैं जो डायरेक्ट बर्डन है ऑन द पर्सन हु इज पेइंग इट. So it is a direct tax. If I am earning an income, I pay taxes on that. So that's a direct tax. Similarly, corporation, a company, when it makes a profit, it pays taxes. That is also one of the types of income tax. So there is nothing called as a separate corporate tax. हमने structural classification के लिए we have just mentioned it, income tax and corporate tax. But corporate tax also is under the ambit of income tax. Then I have agriculture tax, which is a tax available leviable on agriculture produce. Currently it is not levied, but there is a tax which can be levied by the respective state government, because it is there in the state list saying that taxes on agriculture can be collected by the states. So these are the examples of direct taxes. Indirect tax, what are the examples? Earlier there were a lot of taxes. Now you have only two taxes. One is GST, the goods and service tax, and another is customs duty. These are the only two taxes, which is the indirect tax. All the taxes have been subsumed under GST, but customs duty is still applicable. What is customs duty? When is it levied? Customs duty is a duty on your importation. So when you import any goods, you pay a duty which is called as customs duty. That was there prior to GST coming in force, and even after the GST, that is still continuing. Why? Because on importation, customs duty will be levied. That cannot be subsumed under the GST. So customs duty still continues. Then we have taxes on tax still there on some aspects, like the surcharge and the cess under income tax. When we see what is levied, that is surcharge, and cess is a tax on tax. That a lot of tax on tax has been gone, but surcharge and cess still continues. So this is the basic tax structure, how it works in India. Now we'll understand what is direct tax. Direct tax is a tax wherein the incidence of tax is borne directly. Okay, it is not borne on by any other person. It is borne by the person who is earning it. मतलब जब मैं इनकम अर्न करता हूं तब उसके ऊपर मैं टैक्स भरता हूं. क्या टैक्स भरता हूं? इनकम टैक्स. तो मैंने कमाई की और मैं भर रहा हूं, उसको डायरेक्ट टैक्स बोलेंगे. और इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स वो है जो इंसिडेंस या जिसका जो इंसिडेंस है, इंसिडेंस ऑफ टैक्स इज शिफ्टेड टू अनदर पर्सन. जो एक पर्सन, मेरा इनकम है लेकिन टैक्स को और भरेगा, दैट इज इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स. जैसे मैं अभी जाता हूं दुकान में और एक सोप खरीद के आता हूं. सोप जब मैं खरीदता हूं तब इनकम किसको जाता है? शॉपकीपर को. लेकिन टैक्स कौन भरता है? शॉपकीपर टैक्स नहीं भरता है, वो टैक्स मुझसे कलेक्ट करेगा. ओके, लेट्स टेक एग्जांपल ऑफ बाइंग अ सोप. 10 रुपए का सोप है. आजकल के दिन में 10 रुपए का सोप नहीं मिलता है, लेकिन एग्जाम्पल के लिए लीजिए. ओके, 10 रुपीज का सोप मैंने खरीदा है. ऑन दिस 10 रुपीज मैं अलग से टैक्स भरूंगा. क्या वो मुझे 10 के ऊपर टैक्स लगाएगा? नहीं लगाएगा. तो सर आप कैसे बोल रहे हो कि वो 10 रुपए के ऊपर टैक्स भर रहा हूं? क्योंकि 10 रुपए का जो टैक्स है, दैट इज द MRP ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट, उसमें ही टैक्स एम्बेडेड है. तो 10 रुपए का जब सोप बेचता है वो, उसके ऊपर से 50 paisa is the tax, 9 rupees 50 paisa is the value of the soap itself. So the 50 paisa hai, that is the taxation aspect of it. So 50 paisa will be the tax collector on the 10 rupees. Now तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? 9 रुपए 50 पैसे उसके सोप का दे रहा हूँ और 50 पैसा उसका टैक्सेस दे रहा हूँ. लेकिन इनकम वो किसको जा रहा है? शॉपकीपर को. तो 10 रुपए का इनकम है, लेकिन इंसिडेंस मैं पे कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैं बायर हूँ. तो इसीलिए incidence of tax is shifted to another person in the case of an indirect tax. Okay, then what is the second point of difference between direct tax and indirect tax? It is progressive in nature. Progressive का मतलब steps की तरह समझिए. जब ऊपर जाते हैं तो ये भी ऊपर जाना चाहिए. तब मतलब जब भी मेरा इनकम बढ़ता है तब मेरा टैक्सेस बढ़ता है. दैट इज, इसलिए हमने देखा है ना, इनकम टैक्स में स्लैब बेसिस है. जब भी आपका इनकम बढ़ते रहता है तब टैक्सेशन बढ़ते रहता है. सो डायरेक्ट टैक्स इज प्रोग्रेसिव इन नेचर. एज एंड व्हेन योर इनकम इंक्रीजेस, योर टैक्स बर्डन आल्सो गोज अप. बट इन केस ऑफ एन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, इट इज रिग्रेसिव इन नेचर. व्हाई इज इट रिग्रेसिव? As and when my income goes, do I pay higher GST? No. The 10 rupees soap, if I buy also it is the same value. If a poor man buy, also it is the same value. Or if a richer man buys, for him also it's the same value. So it is regressive nature, because as and when the income increases of the recipient, the taxation is not increasing, it remains same. So that's why it is not a progressive in nature, it is called regressive in nature. It means that it doesn't affect the income of the buyers, it depends on the product. जो प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर जो जीएसटी रेट है वही अप्लाई होगा एंड वो बट चेंजेस नहीं होगा. दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ रिग्रेसिव इन नेचर. Okay, so indirect tax is digressive in nature, but direct tax is progressive in nature. Example of income direct tax is income tax. Example of indirect tax is GST and customs duty. Clear? What's the marks weightage carried by this chapter? We will get on this marks weightage also. In the subsequent sessions, I will tell you on the marks weightage. Why GST introduced? We'll get into this. Is there any difference between duty and tax? No, actually, no, there is no difference between duty and taxes. Article 246 Union of Constitution says no tax on agriculture income. Then how agriculture tax? Agriculture tax is there under the state list. On that basis, we can say that agriculture tax is a tax which is available in the as a power to the state. Day before yesterday, one amendment came that 18% GST on packaged paratha and 5% on chapati, that it can be asked in questions. The latest amendments like this, whatever has happened, you will have to wait for the statutory updates. Okay, so the statutory updates is not yet come for you. So once it comes, whatever updates are mentioned in that, that will apply for your exams. I wouldn't say, because the institute has already given a supplementary material. In the supplementary material, if you see on the website of Board of Studies, you'll see the supplementary material wherein most of the amendments happened through Finance Act 2021 and Finance Act 2022 have been mentioned. But any circulars or things given up to a certain date only will apply to you. So you have to wait for that to see whether all these recent amendments will apply for you or no. Progressive means as income increases, tax rate increases. That's correct. It means there is a direct relationship between income and direct tax, correct? Is import duty and customs duty same or different? Import duty and customs duty is same itself. It's actually customs duty, because the customs law says there shall be levied a duty on import of goods, which is called as customs duty. It is customs duty itself, but we in normal parlance use it as, call it as income tax, but it is actually customs duty itself. What is regressive? Regressive, Mrs. Varsha, is opposite of progressive. Okay, so whatever is progressive, that there is a correlation. When my income increases, the taxation increases, that is progressive. But when my income increases and the taxation doesn't increase, that is called regressive in nature. If percentage remains same, then it should be proportional, not regressive. It remains, percentage remains same, but it doesn't depend on the income of the recipient. That's what I'm trying to say in that example. Correct. Regressive, increase in income, decrease in tax. Yeah, to some extent. I zoom in PPT. Which one do you want me to zoom? Okay. So if price will be increased, the taxation percentage of tax will be. Yes, Ms. Haripriya. If price increases, then percentage will increase. But if the price remains same, then the taxation will be same, correct? So we are giving an example wherein the value of the product remains same for everybody and the percentage of tax also remains same. But in income tax, what happens? If the taxation, the income increases, the tax outflow increases, correct? That's why it's called progressive, and indirect tax is called regressive. When can we see the amendments of GST? It should be coming in a couple of months. I think by December, you will get to see it. Explain the tax on tax. I will explain you the tax on tax. We have seen three aspects: direct tax, indirect tax, and third is tax on tax, wherein in surcharge, what happens in your income tax act? If 25% is the rate, 25% on say 1 lakh is my profit. On 1 lakh, I paid 25%, 25,000. And on top of that, on 25,000, I'll pay 4% surcharge. Now, this 4% surcharge is not calculated on my income. It is calculated on this tax of 25,000. Okay. So this surcharge or on 4% on the tax is an example of tax on tax. Means I collect the taxes on this tax. Again, another tax is levied. This is called as tax on tax. Clear, Vaibhavi? Give an example of customs duty. What is an example of customs duty? When I import a shirt from outside India to India, it goes through a procedure of customs clearance. ठीक है, जब मैं इंपोर्ट करूंगा तब क्या लगेगा मुझे? कस्टम्स क्लियरेंस लगेगा. कस्टम्स क्लियर क्यों करेगा और कस्टम्स क्यों बैठा है वहां पे? क्योंकि जब भी मैं कुछ इंपोर्ट करूं तब एक ड्यूटी लगता है जिसको कस्टम्स ड्यूटी कहते हैं. वो कस्टम्स ड्यूटी कब लगता है? जब भी मैं क्लियरिंग करता हूं गुड्स को और उस गुड्स को मैं डोमेस्टिक यूज के लिए लाता हूं, तब वहां पे मेरे को एक डॉक्यूमेंट देना पड़ता है जिसका नाम है बिल ऑफ एंट्री. बिल ऑफ एंट्री में वो सेलर का इनवॉइस का डिस्क्रिप्शन रहता है और कस्टम्स कैन चेक वेदर आप जो डिस्क्लोज कर रहे हो वो करेक्ट है या गलत है. इफ इट इज ऑल करेक्ट, देन वो उसके ऊपर बोलेगा कि आपको ये ड्यूटी लगेगा. एंड यू ऑल्सो कैन गेट टू नो इट बिकॉज देयर इज कस्टम्स टैरिफ. हाउ विल द कस्टम्स अप्लाई द रेट? वो रैंडमली नहीं लगाएंगे कस्टम ऑफिसर, वो भी कस्टम्स टैरिफ लेंगे. आपके पास भी कस्टम्स टैरिफ है, आप आपका रेट देखिए और क्रॉस चेक कीजिए. अगर सेम रेट लगाता है तो आप क्लियर कीजिए, वरना यू कैन ऑब्जेक्ट इट सेइंग दैट द वैल्यू, द रेट व्हाट यू अप्लाइड इज इनकरेक्ट. सो जो कस्टम्स ड्यूटी रहता है ऑन दैट बेसिस मैं क्लियर करूंगा. क्लियरेंस का मतलब आई विल गिव अ डॉक्यूमेंट कॉल्ड एज अ बिल ऑफ लेडिंग उसको, और ऑफिसर विल सी दैट एंड गिव अ डॉक्यूमेंट कॉल ऑफ बिल ऑफ एंट्री कि आपने ये टैक्सेस भर दिया है, एंड ही विल गिव अ बिल ऑफ एंट्री डॉक्यूमेंट. जब बिल ऑफ एंट्री डॉक्यूमेंट पास हो जाता है, then I can clear the goods. That is the procedure of payment of customs duty and clearing it. Now, another interesting thing on customs duty is customs duty जब लगता है, listen to this carefully, this is not there in a module. जब import करता हूं, say a product of a machinery, if I import a machinery, on that, say the customs duty mentioned in the customs tariff is 10%. Okay, so the customs officer will not only charge 10% customs duty, on that he will levy GST also. क्यों? Basically क्या है, this funda on clearance of any imported goods is, कल के दिन मैं कहीं दूसरी जगह से goods लेके आता हूं, then on that there should not be an advantage to the exporter than to an Indian buyer. अब जब मैं इंडिया में कुछ चीज प्रोड्यूस करता हूं तब उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगता है, लेकिन जब मैं इंपोर्ट करूंगा और उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगाऊंगा, देन लोग इंपोर्ट ज्यादा करेंगे क्योंकि उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लग रहा है. लेकिन बेचारे इंडियन मैन्युफैक्चर के ऊपर तो आप टैक्स लगा रहे हो. तो अवॉइड दिस डिस्क्रिप्शन. whenever I import something, I have to pay GST. That is there in the constitution as well, but the logic behind that is when I clear any goods, it has to be in competition with the Indian manufacturer also. So when I import, customs duty is levied on my machinery. Example of 1 lakh rupees worth of machinery, 1 lakh rupees machinery, 10% is the customs duty, 10,000 plus 18% GST on that 1 lakh, on the value of the goods itself, not tax on tax. That's why I didn't say GST is a tax on tax. GST is an indirect tax. So when I import something, customs duty plus IGST is also levied on that. Okay. So when I've been telling import duty, so that's why I said customs duty is not always import duty, but import duty means customs duty plus GST. Okay. On because import के ऊपर जो ड्यूटी लगता है उसको import duty बोलते हैं. उसमें दो parts है. One is customs duty and another one is GST. Now, what kind of GST will be levied? It will always be levied as IGST. We'll get into that again later on again, but understand when you import something, you have to pay customs duty plus IGST. Okay. So is every state have their own tax regime? Yes, every state has its own tax regime. Even in India, the country has one GST law, which is called as Central Goods and Service Tax. Then each state has their own respective state taxes. Like Rajasthan will have Rajasthan Goods and Service Tax Act. Karnataka will have Karnataka Goods and Service Tax Act. So each state will have their own taxes, but they will make sure that most of the provisions are same and there is no difference between the CGST Act and the respective SGST Act. So we have started late, so will it affect the studies? No, it will not affect. You can buck up, you can start revising on this very fast. As and when my classes are getting over, start your revision so you could clear up for your May. So this virtual classes are for May 2023 examination, not for November 2022, because November 2022 के बच्चे तो अभी revision कर रहे होंगे, they will not have time for this classes. So this classes, if anybody is attend it. If you're attending for November 22 exam, but if you're attending for November 2022 exams, you are very late. Progressive and relation is relation to income, correct. Progressive and regressive is in relation to income, not in relation to the product. That's the reason, Murtaza, indirect tax is not, how indirect tax is regressive, as it does not decrease, instead it remains the same. It remains the same, but the person on who's paying the taxes compared to his income, that is reducing. That's why it's called as regressive, because it remains the same for the product, but it is not related to income. That's why we are saying it is regressive. What is cess? Cess means anything levied in addition to a tax is called cess. Like in Kerala, there were floods. So the Kerala government levied additional tax called Kerala Flood Relief Cess. Okay, so whenever any transaction used to happen in Kerala, this Kerala cess used to be levied, which is a tax on the tax. That is called a cess. Okay. Yeah, 4% is not surcharge. It is also cess. Clear. Can customs duty be evaded? No, customs duty cannot be evaded. What is the difference between income tax and customs duty? Income tax is a tax on your income. Customs duty is a duty on your imports. Is there any export duty also? Yes. Like how we have import duty, we have export duty also. On only few products, most of the products it is exempted. Only few products, and something which we export, on that export duty is applicable. What is tariff? Tariff means a schedule which will say that for each product, you have a code which is called as a HSN code. For each of these, harmonized system of nomenclature. HSN means harmonized system of nomenclature, which is global or uniform across the world. For when you import anything, you have to mention the HSN code for that product. Once you give that HSN code, that will be a global product, right? The global usage. HSN is a 6-digit or a 8-digit code, which is given for all the products. So if you clear any product, you have to give this HSN code. Or based on that HSN code, the HSN number-wise rates are mentioned in a table in customs book that is called as a customs tariff. Clear? What is meant by levied? Levied means collected. Levied means levy to the authority to collect taxes is called as levied. I will upload the PPT, but I would insist that you still make your notes. For November 2023, yes. For November 2023 also, you can listen to this exams. What is the difference between IGST and CGST and SGST? You go to it. There are 3 different types of taxation. I'll explain to you that. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Ayush, you can connect after the classes on LinkedIn, Deepak P. Jain, or you can find my contact details there itself. Compensation cess, yes, another example of this is compensation cess, wherein on few certain products, whenever I hear it, like example, luxury cars or aerated drinks, whenever I sell those goods, on that GST rate will be 28% plus cess also. So that is an example of a cess, compensation cess. You have mentioned HSN is a 6-digit code, but I have seen only 4-digit HSN on some invoice. The HSN code is actually a 6 to 8-digit code, but under GST, a small trader is required to mention 4 digits and a big trader is required to mention 6 digits. That's why in GST invoices, you'll see this, but in a bill of entry, it is always a 8-digit code. So in bill of entry, you will see it's an 8-digit code, but GST has given a relaxation to small traders whose turnover is below 1.5 crores, that they can mention up to 6 digits, and a person who's having bigger, higher turnover, he has to mention 6 digits. GST is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. Other taxes, we've seen that it applies to whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir, but GST is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir also. अभिषेक जी, नोट्स आपको खुद को बनाना है, मैं सिर्फ प्रेजेंटेशन शेयर करूंगा. ओके. ओके, व्हाट आर द इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स मिस जूफा, मैं बताऊंगा आपको जहां जहां पे इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स रहेंगे. So please make a note of it once when I tell that. There is a manufacturing entity and GST is paid after IT returns. Good. Okay. So we understood direct tax and indirect taxes. अभी समझते हैं कि GST क्या है. So earlier taxes, we had various taxes which got subsumed under GST. Okay. In the earlier laws, there were various taxes. What were the various taxes? Excise duty, service tax, additional duty of excise, surcharge and cess. All of them has been ballooned down and come to CGST. Very simple, no? What is this CGST? It is called as Central Goods and Service Tax. Sir, why is the Central Goods and Service Tax there? Sir, earlier taxes were only good. If earlier taxes were good, we would not have something to upgrade our knowledge. So we need to update our knowledge. That's why they pass this GST. No, not exactly that way. There were some lacunas in the old. That's the reason all these laws were quashed and GST came in. So they got all the central taxes subsumed under one tax called as Central Goods and Service Tax. ओके आपको पढ़ना क्या है, बहुत सिंपल पढ़ना है कि जो टैक्सेस सेंटर के पास थे वो सबस्यूम्ड होके सेंट्रल गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स हो गए. अब क्वेश्चन सर ये सबस्यूम्ड का क्या मतलब है? सबस्यूम्ड मतलब दूध में चीनी मिलाने का काम. दूध में चीनी मिला दो तो चीनी अलग निकलेगी नहीं ना, दूध ही रहेगा. तो ये जब पुराने टैक्सेस है वो इकट्ठे होके सीजीएसटी बन गए. और ये जो स्टेट टैक्सेस है, वैट, परचेज टैक्स, एंट्री टैक्स, लग्जरी टैक्स, सरचार्ज जो वैट के ऊपर लगता था, दैट इज कॉल्ड सबस्यूम्ड और एसजीएसटी में समावेश हो गए. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज टैक्सेस व्हिच वर लेवीड बाय द स्टेट हैव गॉट कंज्यूम्ड or subsumed under a tax called as State Goods and Service Tax. तो और एक चीज है IGST, मतलब ये दोनों का बीच का जो है, जो इंटर स्टेट मूवमेंट के ऊपर लगेगा उसे बोलेंगे हम IGST. So this CVD and SAD, Central Value Added Tax, okay, and Central Sales Tax and Special Additional Duty, all of this has got subsumed under IGST. ठीक है. तो सीजीएसटी, एसजीएसटी और आईजीएसटी ये तीन तरह के टैक्सेस है. सो व्हेनेवर आई डू any transaction from one state to another state. If the movement of goods happens from one state to another state, or if a service provided in one state provides services to another state, then he will levy IGST. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? IGST का मतलब इंटरस्टेट गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स नहीं. IGST का करेक्ट मतलब है integrated goods and service tax, because it has a role of integrating taxes from one state to another state. So that's why it is an integrated goods and service tax and not an interstate goods and service tax. ठीक है? तो integrated goods and service tax कब लगेगा? When there is a location of supplier is in one state and place of supply is in another state. Keep this thumb rule. When the location of supplier and place of supplier are in two different states, then IGST will apply. But where the location of supplier and place of supply is in one state, then what will apply? CGST and SGST will apply. Okay. Now, central goods and service tax, say state goods and service tax, and integrated goods and service tax will apply. But what happens to a union territory? If it is a union territory, then CGST and UTGST. UTGST matlab Union Territory Goods and Service Tax. UTGST plus CGST will apply in case of intrastate. Intrastate matlab within the state. So within the state, if there is any transaction, then CGST and UTGST will apply. But if it is a transaction from one state to another state, or from one state to union territory, or one union territory to another union territory, or in case of a import transaction, IGST will apply. Okay, clear with this? CGST, SGST, and IGST. What is UTGST? It is Union Territory Goods and Service Tax. Okay. What is CST? पहले जब इंटरस्टेट ट्रांसफर्स होते थे मिस गुरली, जब एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में कुछ सप्लाई होता था, तब कौन सा स्टेट टैक्स लगाएगा ये पता नहीं था और झगड़ा होता था. इसीलिए वन स्टेट टू अनदर स्टेट जब इंटरस्टेट गुड्स मूवमेंट होते थे, तब सेंट्रल CST सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स लगता था, और विद इन द स्टेट जब ट्रांजैक्शन होते थे तब वैट लगता था. ओके, तो जब विद इन द स्टेट होता है तब वैट लगता था, और विद इन एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट के लिए CST लगता था. So when we are paying almost all the taxes which we are used to pay before GST, then what was the need for subsuing them? पे तो करते थे बेटा, लेकिन अनक्षा आकांक्षा, लेकिन क्या होता है ना, बहुत सारी डिफिकल्टीज होती थी वहां पे. थोड़ा सब्र कीजिए, आगे की स्लाइड में आपको समझाऊंगा कि पुराने टैक्सेस में क्या लैकुनास थी. ओके, व्हाट डज दिस मीन? नो प्रिसेप्शन ऑफ डायरेक्ट पिंच, मतलब डायरेक्ट पिंच नहीं लगेगा आपको, इनडायरेक्ट पिंच लगेगा. आपके नोट्स में लिखा है आपके कि इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, in indirect taxes or in GST there is no perception of direct pinch. मतलब आपको मार पड़ेगी और आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि आप जब दुकान में जाके समोसे कचौरी खाते हो तब उनके पास आप खाने में मजा लगाते हो या आपको टैक्सेस की परवाह होती है? आपको वहां पे टैक्सेस की परवाह नहीं होती है, लेकिन आप जब भी वहां पर भी आपको टैक्सेस लगता है, 5% का टैक्स तो वहां पर भी लगता है. तो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस में आपको पिंच नहीं होता है, आपको बर्डन प्रूव नहीं होता, बर्डन फील नहीं होता है. ओके, व्हाट आर द taxes subsumed in IGST? There were two taxes which are subsumed in IGST. One is CST, which is Central Sales Tax, and another one is CVD and SVD, which means Central Value Added Tax. जब मैं import करता था तब customs duty I used to pay, plus I used to pay CVD and SAD. CVD मतलब countervailing duty. जब what is the rate equivalent to an excise duty that used to be charged on my import, that was called as CVD, and the rate equivalent to VAT was levied as special additional duty, which was called as SAD. Okay, CVD and SAD were levied only when I used to import any goods. मतलब customs duty plus CVD and SAD used to be levied. That has got subsumed और CVD SAD की जगह क्या आ गया अभी? IGST. Clear? Okay. So what happens when I make any interstate transactions? IGST. When I make intrastate transactions, CGST and SGST. CGST, as the word only suggests, Central Goods and Service Tax, वो सेंट्रल जेल को जाएगा. स्टेट गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स जो स्टेट जेल को जाएगा. नहीं नहीं, जेल में तो सिर्फ कैदी जाते हैं. सेंट्रल गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स मतलब सेंटर को जाने वाला टैक्स को सेंट्रल गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स, नॉट सेंट्रल जेल. और एसजीएसटी जो स्टेट को टैक्सेस जाएगा उसे कहते हैं एसजीएसटी. जब मैं इंट्रा स्टेट सेल करता हूं तब दो दो लोगों को पैसे देता हूं, एक सेंटर को और एक स्टेट को. और जब मैं इंटर स्टेट करूंगा, विद इन वन स्टेट टू अनदर स्टेट जब भी ट्रांजैक्शन करूंगा, तब सिर्फ आईजीएसटी दूंगा और वो आईजीएसटी सेंटर को जाता है. क्लियर? तो सीजीएसटी गोज टू द सेंटर, एसजीएसटी गोज टू द स्टेट and IGST again goes to the center. What is intrastate? Within the state transaction is called as intrastate. Sir, in case of IGST, if a buyer purchases something from other state, will he collect the tax? State of buyer and state of seller, will central get any tax in case of IGST? Yes, in case of IGST, the full taxes, Mr. Lithun, goes to the center itself. Is there any difference in SGST and UTGST except name? No. SGST and UTGST plays the same role. जब states रहते हैं तब SGST लगता है, जब union territories होते हैं तब UTGST लगता है. But understand one more difference. When is SGST collected? SGST is collected by all the states, right? And SGST is also collected by union territory who is having a legislature. So there are two different categories of union territories. One union territory is with legislature, one union territory is without legislature. जब legislature होता है तब उस union territory का CM भी होता है जो खासते रहता है. समझ गए मेरी बात? दिल्ली is a UTGST, but वहां पे गवर्नर का रूल नहीं है, वहां पे लेजिस्लेशन है, लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली है, तो वहां का चीफ मिनिस्टर है. सो वेयर एवर देयर इज अ लेजिस्लेचर, दैट इज अ यूनियन टेरिटरी विथ लेजिस्लेचर, उसको जीएसटी में स्टेट माना गया है. उसको यूनियन टेरिटरी के टैक्सेस में नहीं लेके आएंगे. जहां पे लेजिस्लेचर नहीं है, जैसे पुदुचेरी और दिल्ली, ये दो स्टेट्स हैं जहां पे लेजिस्लेचर है, तो उनको रेस्पेक्टिव यूनियन टेरिटरी टैक्स उनको रेस्पेक्टिव जीएसटी टैक्स लगता है. मतलब दिल्ली का दिल्ली जीएसटी एक्ट है और पौंडीचेरी का पौंडीचेरी जीएसटी एक्ट है. लेकिन दमन एंड दियो और नागर हवेली हो गया, ये यूनियन टेरिटरी है जिस विच इज विदाउट लेजिस्लेचर. सो दीज यूनियन टेरिटरीज विदाउट लेजिस्लेचर, उसके ऊपर यूटीजीएसटी लगेगा. ओके Where CGST and individually applied? नहीं. CGST और SGST फेविकॉल की जोड़ की दो हाथी की तरह है. जो भी ट्रांजैक्शन इंट्रास्टेट करोगे, ये दोनों टैक्सेस आपको भरना पड़ेगा. एक सिर्फ मैं मेरे स्टेट का फेवरेबल हूं तो मैं सिर्फ स्टेट को भरूंगा और सेंटर को नहीं भरूंगा, इसे नहीं कर सकते आप. जो है इंट्रास्टेट ट्रांजैक्शन पे आपको 50-50 भरना ही पड़ेगा. 9 अगर 18% का जीएसटी रेट है तो 9% सेंटर को जाएगा और 9% स्टेट को जाएगा. आईजीएसटी के फर्स्ट बलून में क्या शो हो रहा है? फर्स्ट बलून पे शो हो रहा है सीवीडी और एसएडी. अच्छा है, बलून बलून खेल रहे हो आप. मैं इसको जूम नहीं कर पा रहा हूं। हाँ, ठीक है। तो आईजीएसटी का फर्स्ट बलून बताता है आपको सीवीडी और एसईडी, और दूसरा बलून बताता है सीएसटी। इंडिया से चाइना सेल्स करे तो कौन सा टैक्स लगेगा? इंडिया से चाइना आप टैक्स करोगे, सेल्स करोगे तो कौन सा टैक्स लगेगा? अच्छा क्वेश्चन है। चाइना से इंडिया तो हम सुने हुए हैं, लेकिन आप बोल रहे हो इंडिया से चाइना। इंडिया से चाइना कोई बेचता है? हम तो सिर्फ चाइना से खरीदते हैं, क्योंकि चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट्स ही बैंगलोर इंडिया में चलते हैं। इंडिया से चाइना अगर आप सेल करोगे तो वो क्या कहा जाएगा? उसको हम एक्सपोर्ट्स कहेंगे। ओके। जब एक्सपोर्ट्स है तो एक्सपोर्ट्स के ऊपर ड्यूटी नहीं लगता है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर वेरी वेरी फ्यू प्रोडक्ट्स। एक्सपोर्ट्स के ऊपर आपको कुछ भी ड्यूटी नहीं लगेगा। लेकिन अभी गवर्नमेंट ने कोविड के बाद बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स किए हैं और थोड़े प्रोडक्ट्स को रेस्ट्रिक्ट किए हैं। सो लाइक कॉफी, टी, वैसे प्रोडक्ट्स, आयरन, मोस्टली मेटल्स के ऊपर एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी लगता है, वरना एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी नहीं लगता है हर चीज के ऊपर। वेरी वेरी मेटल्स के ऊपर ही, मेटल्स, आयरन एंड स्टील, उनके ऊपर एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी लगता है। व्हाट इज एंट्री टैक्स? जब एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में कुछ एंटर होता है, तब ऑन सेलेक्टिव प्रोडक्ट्स एंट्री टैक्स लगता था, उसे एंट्री टैक्स कहते हैं। Old names of taxes do we need to remember? Not exactly. You just need to know what all taxes has got subsumed. If you order anything online from another state, they will mention which tax they charge. If you order from another state and if you give your state's address, then it is a movement from one state to another state. They will charge IGST. Yeah, what taxes subsumed in IGST? I've zoomed it. Sir, on goods, they mention inclusive of taxes. Why do they mention like that? Why don't they show tax breakup? Is there any particular reason? No, Ramchandra. Like MRP goods are there, on that it will be like that. But other goods, which is not MRP based goods, that they'll have to separately mention. If they are not mentioning, then that is wrong. What is excise duty? On any manufacturing of goods, the duty what was levied was called as excise duty. व्हाट इज लेजिस्लेचर? मतलब वहां पे स्टेट असेंबली होता है, जैसे लोकसभा, राज्यसभा सेंटर में होते हैं, मिनिस्ट्री, जहाँ पे हर स्टेट का लेजिस्लेचर होता है, हु विल डू द लेजिस्लेटिव फंक्शंस ऑफ द स्टेट, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज लेजिस्लेचर. Who decides the rate of GST? GST काउंसिल है जो डिसाइड करता है रेट्स को. द GST काउंसिल इज द डिसाइडिंग फंक्शन. So there are four kinds of GST. Their main kinds of GST: CGST, tax goes to central government; SGST, tax goes to state government; IGST, tax goes to central government only; UTGST, not having legislature, tax goes to central government; and if union territory has legislature, then tax goes to that union territory itself. That is correct. Then that union territory will be having a not union territory tax, they will have a state tax. They say Delhi will not have union territory tax. There's one union territory tax for all the union territories. There's no separate individual union territory law, one UT law for all the union territories. But if it's a union territory with legislature, they will have a state law with them. Like Delhi GST, for them, Delhi as a union territory will not follow the UT GST law. They will follow the Delhi GST law. Okay. If one UT to another UT, what will apply? IGST will apply, not UT-GST. Good question, Ayushi. And when goods are sold within unit territory, within one unit territory itself, then CGST and that respective UT-GST will apply. So if IGST is paid to the center only, then why is it called as integrated GST? Very good question, Deepak Mato. मैं आपको एक एग्जाम्पल के साथ थोड़े स्लाइड में आगे बताऊंगा कि इंटीग्रेटेड जीएसटी को इंटीग्रेटेड क्यों कहते हैं, बिकॉज इट गोज टू द सेंटर बट इट एक्ट्स लाइक अ पासिंग बाई, क्योंकि एक स्टेट का टैक्स कलेक्ट करके वो दूसरे स्टेट को देना चाहता है. It is a passing by tax. That's why it is called an integrated tax, and it is not actually a tax. हम अभी के लिए integrated tax को tax ही मानेंगे, but हम उसका structure जब समझेंगे आपको पता चलेगा कि वो थोड़ा difference है उसमें. collection तो ultimately कुछ भी नहीं जाता है center. Okay, so let's move ahead. What are the features of indirect tax? We've seen it is an important source of revenue, correct? क्योंकि जब पहले income tax था, government used to believe that income tax only would suffice, but no, after they started collecting service tax way back in 1994, when first service tax was collected, it was only there on 2 products. But then they saw that this small elephant can grow into a big elephant and become a big source of revenue. They started collecting service tax on anything and everything. So this indirect tax became so very important for revenue that the share is almost 50%. Earlier, income tax itself used to be 60-70% or 80%, and indirect tax used to be very less. But slowly, the portion of indirect taxes was growing. Oh, it's raining here in Bangalore. So the portion of indirect taxes grew up and it became an important source of revenue to the government. Why? The share of the total taxation, 50%, more than 50% is from indirect taxes. Then it is tax on commodities and services. So GST, full form is what? GST, goods and services tax. It's a taxes collected on supply of goods and services. So it's a tax collected on commodities and services. The burden, shifting of burden happens. मतलब एक आदमी का बोझ दूसरा आदमी ले रहा है, दूसरा आदमी का बोझ तीसरा आदमी ले रहा है. So it's a chain reaction. My duty, I will pass it on to the buyer. My buyer will pass it on to his buyer. That buyer will pass it on to another buyer. Ultimately, who pays it? It is paid by the consumer. जब मैं सोप खरीदने गया, I am consuming. तो मुझसे पहले जो मेरा रिटेलर था उसने टैक्स मुझे पास किया, लेकिन वो जिससे खरीदा था वो तो होलसेलर से खरीदा था. होलसेलर ने उसका बर्डन इसको पास किया. होलसेलर कहाँ से खरीदा? मैन्युफैक्चरर ने क्या किया? उसका बर्डन होलसेलर पे डाला. होलसेलर उसका बर्डन रिटेलर पे डाल रहा है. रिटेलर का बर्डन मैं कंज्यूमर ले रहा हूँ. मेरे पीछे तो कोई नहीं है भैया. Nobody behind the consumer. The ultimate tax has to be borne by the consumer itself. So the shifting of burden happens through a chain reaction, which is through a chain of input tax credit until it reaches the end consumer. So we are consumers in various ways, right? So I am a consumer of consumable goods, but my services are being used by somebody, and say a chartered accountant services is paid by the company. So company will claim the credit. But if it's an individual, he is the ultimate person who is taking my services. If I charge him GST and if he is not registered under GST, then he cannot pass on the burden to anybody. It will be his burden. So burden shifts when there is a registered person, and when there is an exemption on something, or when the recipient is an unregistered person, the shifting of burden stops there. Until then, the burden is shifting. Then there is no perception of direct pinch. Matlab, directly, I will not get to know at all. I gave you this example of in restaurant services also. When we go to a restaurant, we pay the amount so easily, and that we don't realize that we have paid some taxes. Like any consumer products, when I purchase, I will pay taxes on it, and there I don't feel the pinch of it. It is inflationary in nature because it is a percentage on the value of the goods and not a fixed amount. Like they've not said on purchase of soap, 1 rupee is the GST. They've said on purchase of soap, 12% is the GST. So if it is 10 rupees, it will be 12 percentage of 10. If the soap is valued at 50 rupees, then it will be 12% of the 50. So as and when the value of the good increases, the tax, the GST also increases. That's why it's called as inflationary in nature. Wider tax base, a person who is not registered, just give me one moment. Yeah. So a person who is not educated, does not know anything about the taxes, he will also pay the tax. So the tax base is really wide. How is it wide? It is spread across the country wherever the supply chain is there, wherever a HUL or a FMCG company is selling its product, even in the remotest location, there also taxes is collected, and it is applicable on all the products. So it has a wide tax base. But income tax has a less tax base because a person who is earning any income below the threshold limit is out of the income tax. So the tax base is not that wide. But in case of indirect tax, the tax base is spread across India and it is very wide. It promotes social welfare. How does it promote social welfare? We'll try to levy more taxes on goods which should not be consumed. Cigarette. Okay, they don't want people to die because of cancer, so cigarette के ऊपर ज़्यादा tax लगाएंगे, so that it will promote them. Government is trying to increase the prices so that people will stop consuming. Effect तो नहीं होता है, but the government का intention यही होता है कि sin goods, all this tobacco, alcohol, on these are called as sin goods. On these sin goods, government levies more taxes to promote social welfare. ठीक है, जो राइस स्टेपल फूड है उनके ऊपर कम टैक्स लगा के ऑन दीज लग्जरी प्रोडक्ट्स ज्यादा टैक्स लगाएंगे, so that it can promote social welfare. It is regressive in nature, right? We've seen this, that as and when my income increases, my GST on my sales increases, but on the consumption, whatever I do, I will also pay the same tax, and another person who is earning less income, he is also paying same tax. So that's why it is regressive in nature. Delhi to Chandigarh IGST लगेगा जी, because Delhi GST है, Delhi GST अलग है और चंडीगढ़ का GST अलग है. So Delhi to GST IGST लगेगा. How is the mechanism of GST? I mean, all taxes are deposited with central government and then they will give the share to respective states, or does state take its share and then give CG? Okay. So whatever SGST I collect, I pay it to the state government. Whatever CGST and AGST I collect, I pay it to the central government. So state government's revenue goes to the state government. Central government's revenue, after the apportionment, what he has to do for the input tax credit, it will apportion whatever taxes it collects. So central government is obliged to distribute the taxes what it collects, but state government is not obliged to do that. If we import goods from one state port to another state port, then is there custom duties levied? No, Sharan. Customs duty is levied to clear any goods from outside India to India. From one port to another port, there is nothing called as customs clearance. Then that's not possible also that you move goods from one port to another port. Like there is movement from one port to intermediate ports, which is called as inland ports, but that will be treated as import from that inland port itself, not from the main port. Clear? Sir, a part of IGST goes to respective state from which tax is levied. Yes. After the distribution, whatever is levied remains, that goes to the state also. What is the minimum amount on which GST limit is there? So we have a threshold limit when we discuss registration, and when we discuss in our further slides, we'll get to know that each state the registration limit is different. If you cross this minimum amount, Mr. Ashwin, then you have to register. Till then, it is not required to get registered. What is inflationary? Inflationary matlab the value increases. That is called inflationary because the percentage है मतलब products का value जब increase होता है तब taxes increase होता है. That is the meaning of inflationary. So part of IGST also goes, I've told this. Registered user thing, what I'm trying to say is you can, how the GST mechanism work, I'll show you an example, there you'll get here. Can we take GST calculator for calculation? What is a GST calculator? You can only take normal calculator. GST calculators are not allowed for the GST subject. Okay, so we'll go and understand what happened and how is the GST evolved. So basically, it's a big chart. When GST started from 2000 to 2006, there was an improvement. 2011 was a more better changes which happened. Then finally in 2017, we saw the GST coming in force. We'll just see the important deadlines here. I'll share the screen again. Yeah. Okay. In 2000 was the first introduction of GST when the Vajpayee government started discussion on GST by setting up an empowered committee, wherein they were just discussion, but nothing concrete happened. So there a committee was set up and they said they will read through on what has to happen on the GST. In 2006, amendment announcement was made that to GST for the first time was made by the then Union Finance Minister during the budget that it would be introduced from 1st April 2010. So that was the plan. But in 2009, first discussion paper was released, a draft of the GST law kind of thing was released saying that how will we structure the GST, but nothing happened there. In 2011, constitutional amendment bill was introduced. So anything to happen as a constitutional thing, there has to be a constitutional validity. So that constitutional validity was first brought to the place before the parliament through the constitution amendment bill. But then that also got squashed because that one did not have that was not passed within a time. So because any bill has to get passed within a particular point of time, this was not passed and so this was lapsed. In 2013, what happened? Goods and Service Tax Network, GSTN, a private company was set up to provide the IT backbone. Before the GST law itself came, the government was very confident and they formed a company called as Goods and Service Tax Network. So GSTN network is the one who holds the power to do any changes in the GST portal. So GST portal ka power is there with GST network. Okay. Then the Constitution 102nd Amendment Bill was introduced. So since this 115th bill got passed, the bill again was laid down and it was not yet passed. So that's why it's called a bill. And that's why it's called in a bill, not an act. In 2014, the Constitution Amendment Bill was introduced. In 2016, they passed it. And that's when it gave us a clarity saying that, yes, GST will definitely come. There were some changes which were required to be made in the Constitution. So it cannot be just made like that. So Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both had to pass. So in 2014, that placed it and 2016, it got passed. So Constitution 101st Act is the act through which the GST law has come into being. So the bill number is different, act number is different. The bill is the 122nd Amendment Bill and the act is the 101st Amendment Act. Okay. Then GST Council was formed. In the first GST Council meeting was held on September 26th. They were planning when to get the GST, and they finally brought the GST on the 1st of July. Before that, lot of meetings happened. In March 2017, they recommended that CGST, SGST, UT GST, and compensation cess will be there. Then these acts got passed. Okay. And in May 2017, GST Council recommends the rates and the rules. In June 2017, all the states except the state of Jammu and Kashmir passed their acts, because CGST will be passed by the central, but SGST has to be passed by the state. States had passed except Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir did not get that. Then on 1st July, GST was launched except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Then within 8 days, they also passed. So SGST Act was passed by the Jammu and Kashmir. So CGST and IGST ordinance were promulgated, because this act was limited to all acts, all the state except Jammu and Kashmir. But after that, 8th July, GST Act was passed in Jammu and Kashmir also. So they extended it to Jammu and Kashmir as well. Okay. So that's how the structure of GST is there. So we'll take a 10 minutes break here. Then I'll take up the questions and then we'll start with the session. So we'll take a 10 minutes break here. So with respect to the questions, is there a possibility that these constitutional article numbers, etc., and dates of GST bill introduction, GST pass date are asked in MCQ? Yes, very much possible, because these are a little confusing and these may be asked. So you have to remember these days. Yeah, not all the dates, but at least the important dates will be required to be remembered, like the GST, when was the constitutional amendment bill brought into the constitution, these important dates. Okay, like the August 2016, the Constitutional Amendment Act, Amendment Bill. Okay, these important, not at least the older ones, but the recent one, when the bill was introduced, when was the act passed, finally, when was the GST brought into picture, when was J&K brought into GST. So those dates would be important to be remembered. Mr. Harsh Kumar, your question on the BOS app, could you please contact the BOS team directly? We are not aware at this stage on what is the resolution to your query. Marking system or proper for paper format, we'll come to that. So they have multiple choice questions, right? So multiple choice questions we have, and then various questions. So if you could just see your previous year questions, we'll get to know the format. That's the same format which will apply now also. There's no change in that format. All this Board of Studies related question, I would ask one of the Board of Studies member to come in one of the sessions and ask and inform you. So all your queries with respect to Board of Studies app or other things, please keep it on hold. I will inform Ms. Shefali, who is a part of the BOS team, that to come on the next class and explain you that. Okay. Yes, Ms. Shreya, this is the first class of Indirect Tax. Welcome to the class. Okay. So what is GST IN number? It is called as Goods and Service Tax Integrated Tax Number, GST IN, GST identification number. So anybody who's registered under the GST will get a number called as GST IN number. Okay, so we understood when the GST was brought into picture and when was the marking store in 2000 is when they were thinking of GST. Finally, in 2017, it could come into the picture. Now, more about GST. GST is also called as VAT in some countries. Why? Because VAT means what? Value added tax. It is a tax on value addition. Similarly, GST is also same. GST is a tax on value additions. So earlier we used to call VAT in India. So now the new name is GST, and the taxation structure is also changed. So it is GST, but in some countries it is called as value added tax. But the concept of how a GST is levied applies same in those countries also. GST is introduced in about 160 countries. Okay, so it's not that India is the first country. The GST is applicable in around 160 countries. France was the first country who brought in GST in the year 1954 itself. And most countries follow unified GST, means one model of GST. But Brazil means the whole country, they will have one GST. Unlike India, wherein we have dual GST, CGST and SGST, it is because of the supremacy of the center and the state. Okay, because of that structure, unique federal structure wherein center will levy the central taxes, state will levy the state taxes. That's why you have CGST and SGST in India. Similarly, Brazil and Canada also follow dual GST model. Okay, but most of the countries have single model. India, Brazil, and Canada follow dual GST model. India too has dual GST model due to its unique federal structure. Right. Now, what is the concept of GST India? It is a value-added tax. It means tax is levied only on value addition, not on the whole value. Sir, but when I buy something, they're levying taxes on the full value. They're not levying only on the value addition. Yes. So they will levy on the full value of sales they make. But when they pay taxes to the government, they will reduce the GST or those components on which they have already paid the VAT. on which they have already paid the GST. And then on the balance, they will pay to the government. So the burden on the person who is paying GST will be only on that portion of value addition and not on the complete value. He will collect from his customers on the full value, right? But he will pay only the tax on the value additions in an indirect manner. To understand this, I have made an example over here. Okay, so let us understand this and then go back to that slide to understand. I will share you this Excel sheet. Yeah. So what used to happen in pre-GST era, you try to understand. In the pre-GST era, the manufacturer, that is before GST came into picture, a manufacturer used to manufacture, sell it to the distributor. Okay, can you see my Excel sheet? Okay, so you're able to see my Excel sheet. Okay, so there used to be a manufacturer. A manufacturer used to sell it to a distributor, and a distributor used to sell it to a retailer, and from a retailer, it used to go to a customer. So a manufacturer in the times before GST, how it used to happen, and now how it used to happen, if you understand, then most of my terms will be clear to you. Okay, a manufacturer used to sell goods for a worth of 10,000 rupees. On that, manufacturer used to charge excise duty, because excise duty, what is excise duty? Few people were asking. It is a duty on manufacture. So only a manufacturer used to levy excise duty. Say the rate is 10% on 10,000, he will levy 10% excise duty. Right, on the 11,000 rupees, VAT used to be levied at 14.5%. Now, VAT was a tax on any sale, right? Once a manufacturer manufactures, he used to charge excise duty, and he was also charging VAT at 14.5%. Now, this 14.5% was on the value of 11,000 and not on the base value of 10,000. So there used to be tax on tax, which is called as cascading effect of tax. When we say cascading effect, this is the cascading effect when one tax is levied, and on that another tax is also levied on the value of the base value plus the tax value. So on that 11,000 rupees, VAT was charged at 14.5%. Okay, so this was the tax on tax effect. So he used to sell at 12,595. Now for the distributor, what was the cost? His cost was not 12,595 and not 10,000 also. It was 11,000, because this 1,000 was a loss to him. He could not claim the credit. He could not take the credit. He can take only credit of VAT. The VAT 14.5%, what is levied, that was his input tax credit. Then he used to sell at 15,000. Okay, distributor was selling with his margin at 15,000 rupees. He will add VAT at 14.5%. Then on the total value, his input was reduced and his cost. This is how he used to work out. So he used to pay to the government how much? 2,175 minus 1,595. So what was his value addition? His value addition was basically 15,000 minus 11,000. So that's why it's called a tax on value addition indirectly, because he will collect full taxes from the buyer, but he will reduce the input tax and pay the net taxes to the government. Okay. Then after distributor comes the retailer. His sale value used to be at 18,000. On that, VAT at 14.5%. Whatever VAT was charged by this distributor, that is 2,175, they will reduce here, and then balance he will pay to the government. And ultimately for the customer, what is the value? A customer buying from the retailer, it will be 18,000 plus 2,610, that is 20,610. He will not get any credit. So final taxes, whatever pass on used to happen, ultimately it used to be borne by the end customer. Clear? What is VAT? Why VAT is charged at LV1? What is VAT? VAT is a value added tax wherein when any sale used to be taken place on the sale value, VAT was levied. Okay, the two it is within the state. If the same transaction falls from one state to another state, then CST was levied. But when it was within the state, VAT was levied. But sir, when VAT was calculated on base, excise, and when manufacturer could have claimed credit automatically, would have included both VAT and excise. Now, so how 1,000 loss to the retailer? Okay, to the retailer. I'll show you that screen again. Okay, or to the retailer, to the distributor, it's an additional cost because he's buying goods of 10,000 rupees but on that 1,000 excise duty was charged. At 1,000, he could not claim the credit. That's why we are saying that for distributor, it is a loss of 1,000. Okay. हाँ राइट राखी जी, कस्टमर को इतना ज्यादा पे खरीदना होता है. अल्टीमेटली हम जो खरीदते हैं वो जितना मार्जिन लगाते हैं बीच में डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर होलसेलर, उसके ऊपर एक्स्ट्रा वैट भी लगता है और अल्टीमेटली कस्टमर को इतना पे करना पड़ता है. मैं तो एक हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन ले रहा हूँ, इतना ज्यादा जनरली नहीं होता है लेकिन कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स पे इतना हो सकता है. पोस्ट जीएसटी ऑल्सो मैं एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ. ठीक है, तो आप प्री जीएसटी समझ गए हो. मैन्युफैक्चरर टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर टू, ठीक है, मैन्युफैक्चरर टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर टू रिटेलर, रिटेलर टू कस्टमर. बेसिकली क्या बोल रहा हूं मैं, ये जो एक्साइज ड्यूटी है इसका क्रेडिट बेचारे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को नहीं मिलेगा, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को सिर्फ ये वैट का क्रेडिट मिलेगा. ठीक है. नाउ विल गो टू अ सिनेरियो ऑफ पोस्ट जीएसटी. सेम मैन्युफैक्चरर है, ये एक्साइज ड्यूटी चार्ज करेगा? नहीं करेगा, बिकॉज एक्साइज ड्यूटी इज रिमूव्ड नाउ, एक्साइज ड्यूटी इज गॉन और वो जीएसटी में सब्स्यूम हो गया है. अज्यूम सेम प्रोडक्ट पे अभी जीएसटी 5% है, तो 10,000 के ऊपर 5% 500 रुपीज जीएसटी लगेगा और 10,500 सेल प्राइस हो जाएगा. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का सेल प्राइस क्या है, से उसका मार्जिन मिला के 14,000 है, वो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी 5% लगाएगा. देन रिडक्शन ऑफ इनपुट. ओके, तो इनपुट उसका रिडक्शन होके वो कितना पे करेगा गवर्नमेंट को, 700 माइनस 500, तो 200 रुपीज गवर्नमेंट को पे करेगा. और डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर जब रिटेलर को सप्लाई करेगा, रिटेलर को ये सप्लाई कर दिया, रिटेलर जब कस्टमर को सप्लाई करेगा उसका सेल वैल्यू मार्जिन लगा के 17,000, जीएसटी लगाएगा 850, 17,850 के ऊपर इनपुट कितना 700 रुपए कम हो गया है. ठीक है, so 850 minus 750 which is 150 he'll pay to the government. और अल्टीमेट कस्टमर को क्या कॉस्टिंग है, सो अल्टीमेट रिटेलर जो सेल कर रहा है और उसका जीएसटी इसको मिला के हो जाए. ठीक है, so 17,850 is the cost to the customer under post GST assuming I've taken a 5% rate. तो यहाँ पे मेन थिंग व्हाट आई वांट टू डिस्क्लोज इज एक्साइज ड्यूटी was levied under pre-GST and it was not creditable, but in post-GST, excise duty itself is gone and replaced with GST, and whatever taxes from the manufacturer stage itself, it is possible to claim the credit. So there is no cascading of taxes in GST. Got it? So no cascading of taxes in GST is my point. VAT was paid by state government. Yes, VAT was paid by the state government in case of earlier VAT regimes. What is the period for claiming input on what once it is applied? So earlier VAT, there used to not be any time period. Once VAT you claim it, it will be available for you. So the only condition was VAT was your invoice should not be more than 1 year old. If it was within a year, you could claim the credit. Why claim of excise duty is not claimable? Because excise duty was a charge on the manufacturer. So one manufacturer, if he sells to another manufacturer, then excise duty was claimable. But manufacturer, if he shifts hand and gives to a distributor, then distributor is not under excise duty, so he's not registered, so he could not claim the credit. So that was the condition under SENVAT. VAT or SENVAT or excise duty credit जो है, that was under the SENVAT system. So the SENVAT system did not allow anybody else to claim the credit unless he is a manufacturer or a service provider. Okay, ये input क्या है जो मैं खरीदता हूं उसके ऊपर जो टैक्स देता हूं मेरे वेंडर को, उसे इनपुट कहते हैं. ओके, हाँ भी ठीक है सर. ओके, हाँ अश्विन, so your question is, ये से तो गवर्नमेंट को प्री जीएसटी में ज्यादा बेनिफिट मिल रहा था, so why they introduce जीएसटी. तो बेनिफिट जो है शॉर्ट टर्म बेनिफिट मिलेगा गवर्नमेंट को, लेकिन लॉन्ग टर्म में उसका लॉस ही रहेगा. वाई? क्योंकि वो टैक्सेस एक्साइज ड्यूटी कलेक्ट कर लेगा, खुश हो जाएगा कि हाँ इसका क्रेडिट मैं किसी को नहीं दे रहा हूँ, पूरा टैक्स गवर्नमेंट को ही गवर्नमेंट के खाते में ही है. बट दैट वाज अ टेम्पररी थिंग. अगर ये से ही करेंगे तो बिग कंपनीज विल नॉट एंटर. अब जिस किसी को ट्रेडिंग करना है गुड्स में फॉरेन से आके, या एनीबडी वांट्स टू सेटअप, वो तो बोलेगा कॉस्ट ज्यादा हो रहा है, मैं ट्रेडिंग क्यों करूं. अगर गवर्नमेंट ऐसे ज्यादा कलेक्शन करेगी, सो नोबडी वांट्स टू पे मोर टैक्सेस टू द गवर्नमेंट. अगर गवर्नमेंट बेनिफिट देगी तो मैं बिजनेस ज्यादा करूंगा, ज्यादा बिजनेस करूंगा तो कस्टमर भी ज्यादा होंगे. तो अगर कस्टमर ज्यादा करने हैं तो आपको टैक्सेस को बेनिफिट देना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली क्या है, सभी टैक्सेस का अल्टीमेट कस्टमर तो पे करेगा, बिकॉज अल्टीमेट बर्डन इज बोर्न बाय द कस्टमर. सो यू कैन नॉट स्टॉप द क्रेडिट. अगर क्रेडिट आप स्टॉप करोगे तो वहां पे बिजनेसेस बढ़ेगा नहीं. सो दैट्स द रीजन, इवन दो गवर्नमेंट को शॉर्ट टर्म पे वो बेनिफिट मिल रहा था, लेकिन वॉल्यूम ऑफ ट्रेड नहीं बढ़ रहा था. तो वॉल्यूम ऑफ ट्रेड बढ़ेगा तो अल्टीमेटली गवर्नमेंट को इनडायरेक्टली वैल्यू वाइज ज्यादा आ जाएगा टैक्सेस. सो दैट्स व्हाई गवर्नमेंट आल्सो हैड टू मूव फ्रॉम अर्लियर रेजिम टू जीएसटी. ठीक है सर, कैन वी क्लेम इनपुट क्रेडिट ऑन एनी जीएसटी लाइक सीजीएसटी अगेंस्ट एसजीएसटी? वो मैं बताऊंगा आपको. एक अच्छा सा एक ड्राइंग किया हूं मैं, वो ड्राइंग आई विल शो यू रामचंद्र ऑन व्हाट क्रेडिट वी कैन क्लेम. All your questions are covered in my answers because I know all of these questions will come up. So for every of your questions, I have a specific slide. Mr. Yatiraj More, yes, your questions are reaching me. Please ask your question. What are all included in the economic integration? Economic integration मतलब जो भी अभी system है, businesses are going hands along with GST. That is the meaning of economic integration. Can you tell me some more about ITR? Sorry, this is an indirect tax class, so we will not be explaining about ITR. VAT system you need not remember. I just given you for your understanding. Don't remember the VAT system. Yes, so many taxes have got reduced to GST. So you understood no? Now why GST came into picture? Thank you, Ashwin. You're understanding these topics very well. So if a company who manufactures plastic sell plastic to that company who manufactures tables from that plastic, so in that time is excise duty claimable. If one manufacturer gives to another manufacturer, yes, that time credit was claimable. Yes, I'll give you practical exposure also. Completely theory based? No, GST is not theory based. GST, the first 2 chapters is theory based, but afterwards all practical. Okay, so let's get into next part, value added tax. It's the tax on the value addition. And it's a continuous chain of tax credits. मतलब supplier से receiver, receiver से again second receiver, से third receiver. As and when everybody is registered, everybody will claim the credit. Matlab, I am selling goods of 1 lakh rupees. On that, I'm charging 5,000 rupees as the GST. That 5% becomes a credit to the receiver one. Now, receiver one, he will do some value addition and he will sell at 1,20,000 rupees. On that, tax is 6,000 rupees. The 6,000, what is charged by this person to the next person, that 6,000 is a credit. So, like this, credit keeps flowing in. Okay, from one person to second person to third person. Now, if third person sells to a fourth person who is doing business, but the fourth person is not registered under GST, then he will not get the credit. Because to claim that credit of what my supplier is charged to me, I have to be registered. That is the first important condition to claim the credit. So if I have to claim the credit, then I have to be registered. Okay, then the burden is borne by the final consumer. So the final, we know, no, we have seen that examples. The burden is borne by a person who's not registered or the ultimate consumer, and there is no cascading of taxes. Clear? Can input be encashed in any situation? Very good. So this input, everybody is getting the input. And if I have sales, I can offset. But if I don't have sales, can I offset? No, I cannot offset. Then what will I do? Can I claim refund? No, I cannot claim refund. Sir, but please, I have so much of credit. Give me something. मैं सिर्फ credit लेके क्या करूं? अचार डालो इसका. What do I do with the credit? Mr. Mohit, your question is very valid. Input है मेरे पास. Supplier, I'm buying so many goods. I'm taking rent. लेकिन मेरा output कम है. मैं output कैसे कम हो सकता है? If you're a profitable venture, whatever is your cost, that should be your selling price should be more than your cost. Correct? So there can be a situation that you can encash your input. If you're selling, buying and selling something, you will not sell something lower than your buying price. तो फिर आपको encash करने की जरूरत क्या पड़ेगी? बोलिए. Tell me which situation can you emphasize that you will need to encash the credit? क्या आप लॉस में धंधा कर रहे हो? Saying that you are buying inputs at a higher price and you're selling at a lower price, then आपको गवर्नमेंट बेनिफिट क्यों देगा for your loss business? Correct? तो आपको encashed करने के लिए नहीं मिलेगा in normal situation. Only in one situation you will get it. That is when you import or you buy some goods, buy some services, and your output is zero rated, not exempted. जब आप exempt supply करोगे तो आपका input नहीं मिलेगा. But if you are making a zero rated supply, मतलब आपका output है, आपको input भी मिलेगा, लेकिन आपको output पर tax नहीं भरना पड़ेगा. On a zero rated output transaction, you can claim refund. You can claim credit of your input. Samjhe Mohit? When can be a situation of zero rated supply? When I made sales outside India. When I make export of goods or when I make export of services or when I supply to a special economic zone unit. So these are the two categories which is called as zero rated supply. Two categories. Supply to SEZ and export of goods or services is treated as zero rated supply. So in this zero rated supply cases, my input which is lying can be claimed as a refund, not in any other cases. Clear? So if a company manufacture plastic granule, ho gaya aapka question. Which when we will be released ICA module 23 study material, can tell me what about supplementary and how to follow it for May 23, what source to be followed for the subjects? Yes. So supplementary material which is there, take that and take the previous study material and compile both and your material for May 2023 is ready, sir. GST is calculated on sale value or purchase value? GST is calculated on your sales value. Okay, on your sales value. Very good question. Whether GST is leviable to or by a Section 8 company? Yes. So there is no exemption for a Section 8 company. Exemption is given to a entity which is doing a charitable activity. So if they are doing some specified charitable activity and they are fulfilling some conditions, then they will get it. Just because you're a Section 8 company, आपको direct exemption नहीं है. Very good question, Pitladwala. Your exemption is not based on your formation. It is all based on your activity. So if you're a Section 8 company and selling goods, क्या आपको exemption मिल जाएगा? नहीं. Section 8 कंपनी हो और आप सेल ऑफ गुड्स कर रहे हो तो टैक्सेबल रहेगा. बट if you're doing any charitable activity, जो मैं exemption में सिखाऊंगा, if you're falling under those exempted activities, then you don't have to charge GST. What happens to ITC when you dissolve a firm? ITC is also dissolved. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि गवर्नमेंट ये करेगा कि आप ITC ले लो और डिसॉल्व कर लो, हम आपका ITC रिफंड दे देंगे. तब तो कोई भी कंपनी रहेगा, कंपनी खोलेंगे, डिसॉल्व करेंगे, क्रेडिट ले लेंगे, कंपनी डिसॉल्व करेंगे, रिफंड ले लेंगे. ऐसे नहीं होता है. तो इफ ITC is not available even when you dissolve your firm. What is SEZ? SEZ means Special Economic Zone. Gyanesh and Chidambaram, each state has various zones called a Special Economic Zone, wherein these are special zones where you do any manufacture in these zones and export it. So then you don't have to pay any duty. So the government wants to encourage employment and other things in some state. So they will set up Special Economic Zone or SEZ zones. Okay. So whenever you supply to these SEZ zones, it is zero rated because these SEZ zones will do export only. When they do export, they want to encourage exports. So supply to SEZ is zero rated. Are the rate of tax goods same for goods and services? No. For goods, we have separate GST rate, and services, we have a separate GST rate. So this GST rate comes through a notification. This notification for goods is separate, notification for services is separate. Wow, so many questions in the first chapter. Very nice. If unregistered retailer will pay GST to the government paid by customer? No. If you're unregistered, then you will not collect any taxes. You don't have any right to collect taxes. So if you're unregistered because you are falling below the limit, example बोलता हूँ मैं, goods के लिए limit generally 40 lakhs है और मैं turnover कर रहा हूँ, sales बढ़ ही नहीं रहा है भाई, तो क्या मैं GST में register लूंगा? नहीं लूंगा. If you are below 40 lakhs, you can voluntarily take. अगर आप देश के भक्त तो आपको चाहिए कि नहीं मैं फर्स्ट डे से GST रजिस्ट्रेशन लूंगा, तो आप लीजिए, लेकिन 40 लाख तक लिमिट है. इफ यू आर नॉट टचिंग वैल्यू ऑफ गुड्स अप टू 20 lakhs, अप टू 40 lakhs एंड वैल्यू ऑफ सर्विसेज 20 lakhs. बट ईच स्टेट के लिए डिफरेंट है. जनरल रेट बोल रहा हूं मैं, 20 lakhs फॉर सर्विसेज, 40 lakhs फॉर गुड्स. अप टू 40 lakhs अगर आपका टर्नओवर रीच नहीं होता है तो आपको GST रजिस्ट्रेशन की जरूरत नहीं है. और जो भी गुड्स आप बेचते हो फ्री में बेच सकते हो. फ्री में मतलब रोकड़ा तो लेने का है, GST कलेक्ट नहीं करने का. मतलब जो वैल्यू है उसी पे आप बेचिए, आपका मार्जिन लगा के बेचिए, लेकिन GST कलेक्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. If I close my GST registration, what happens? Navneetan, somebody had asked about the same question. What happens on liquidation? On liquidation or closure of GST registration, your GST or ITC also gets closed. You have to, that goes to the government. You cannot do anything with it. What is the difference between zero rated supply and exempt supply? Superb question, Surjal. Please listen to this answer. Everybody listen to this answer. What is the difference between zero rated supply and exempt supply? दोनों के ऊपर टैक्स नहीं भरना है, तो फिर differentiation क्यों है? Exempt supply means the goods or services which I supply are exempted through a exemption notification. Okay? So generally, when I supply a chocolate, उसके ऊपर GST लगेगा. But when I supply some betel nuts or agriculture products, on that the GST is exempted. So I am supplying exempted goods. But जो exempt goods supply करने के लिए I have some inputs, I have done some activities. On this inputs I cannot claim credit, क्योंकि आपका अगर output taxable है तो फिर input credit मिलेगा. Input credit ये जो concession दिया है आपको, किस लिए दिया है? With the concession is given so that आपको वैल्यू एडिशन पे ऊपर टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा और आपका आउटपुट टैक्स रहेगा तो इनपुट मिलेगा. देयर हैज टू बी अ कोरिलेशन दैट इफ आई पे टैक्स ऑन आउटपुट देन माय टैक्सेस ऑन इनपुट कैन बी ऑफसेट. लेकिन आप आउटपुट के ऊपर भर ही नहीं रहे हो तो फिर आपको इनपुट का क्रेडिट क्यों दो भाई, नहीं मिलेगा. तो आउटपुट अगर एग्जेम्प्टेड है तो इनपुट के ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा इन द केस ऑफ अ एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई. बट व्हेन आई डू अ जीरो रेटेड सप्लाई आई एम ऑल्सो वहां पे भी कहाँ टैक्स भर रहा हूं मैं, तो फिर मुझे क्यों इनपुट दे रहे हो, क्योंकि वहां पे एक्सपोर्ट और एससीजेड को बढ़ावा देना है. तो व्हेन आई सप्लाई टू एससीजेड यूनिट और व्हेन आई सप्लाई मेक अ एक्सपोर्ट सप्लाई, तो फिर आई नीड टू encourage that is also equivalent to not paying tax on my input, लेकिन input का credit मिलेगा आपको. So you will get input credit and this input you can claim a refund. Okay. So to encourage exports, a special category is categorized, which is called as zero rated supply. Clear? Clear, Sujal? So exempted and sub zero rated में both आउटपुट तो जीरो है लेकिन एग्जेम्प्टेड के ऊपर आपको इनपुट नहीं मिलेगा, लेकिन जीरो रेटेड के ऊपर आपको इनपुट मिलेगा. ओके. So then it will be a kind of loss for those retailers who do not get registered themselves with GST. Yes, to that extent, the input जो भी रहेगा उनका loss रहेगा. In case business has exports as well as local sales, then input tax can be claimed as refund. Very good questions. So if I have export also and I have local sales also, can I claim refund? क्योंकि मैं export कर रहा हूँ ना. No, there you have to do a bifurcation. You have to claim proportionate credit. Okay, proportionate credit you can claim refund. Proportionate credit which you are utilizing for your input local sales, उतने का refund नहीं मिलेगा. But credits which are in relation to exports, you can claim refund for that. Can we continue to use study material order for November 2022? Sagar Jain, yes, you can claim it, you can use it because November 2022 के बाद जो supplementary आएगा वो सिर्फ छोटा सा रहेगा. तो November 2022 का पढ़ के supplementary material जो है उसको रेफर कीजिए. Kirtana, what is SEZ? SEZ is special economic zone, wherein there are special zones which are set up for making only exports. If a company gives goods on charity, can it claim refund? No, because it is not a zero rated supply, so you will not get it. So if a company gives any goods on charity, it cannot claim refund. There is no cascading effect of tax, but sir, during import, we pay import duty and IGST. So is it cascading tax? No, क्योंकि आपको IGST का क्रेडिट मिलेगा सपना जी. When you import anything, आपको customs duty लगेगा, customs duty का क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. That I understand. तो उसके to that extent there is cascading. बट इंपोर्ट के ऊपर जब आप IGST भर रहे हो ना, उसका क्रेडिट मिल सकता है. क्या मिल रहा है? जो इंपोर्ट के ऊपर IGST कर रहे हो, IGST का क्रेडिट, इनपुट क्रेडिट मिलता है. Do SEZs get GST exemption? हाँ, because SEZs are again supplying. No, if they are also exporting, they will get the exemption. What is ITC? Miss Kavita, ITC is the input tax credit. When I purchase any goods from my vendors, and I use it for my manufacturing of goods or trading of goods or providing services, the tax charged by my vendor is called as input tax credit. Will there be GST for insurance company? Yes, for insurance company also. If a company donates goods to charitable, can it claim credit? No, it cannot claim credit. Please don't repeat your questions. Please ask your question once itself, because I'm seeing a lot of questions getting repeated. Please don't repeat your questions. If you ask a question once, I will answer it. Is it necessary to learn rates of GST? Rates of GST are not required to be learned. It will be given in your question. But you should know rate of GST. General rate is 18%, and for services also mostly it is 18%. So that you should know. An example for zero rated supply, I provide chartered accountancy services to a client in Australia. Okay, so I am providing consultancy service from here to Australia. He is making the money transfer to me in foreign exchange. So this is an example of zero rated supply. Okay. Deficiencies in VAT system. What was the problem in VAT system? Why GST came in? In the VAT system, there was a lot of deficiencies. One of the biggest deficiency was there were cases of double taxation on single transaction. मतलब दोनों वैट भी लगेगा और सर्विस टैक्स भी लगेगा. हाँ, ऐसे बहुत सारे गुड्स थे. एग्जांपल सॉफ्टवेयर, मतलब वॉल्यूम ज्यादा था. वो सॉफ्टवेयर तो बहुत लोग खरीदते थे और कंस्ट्रक्शन बहुत सारे करते थे. ऑन दैट देयर वाज अ कंफ्यूजन. वैट ऑन बोलता था वैट चार्ज, सर्विस टैक्स बोलता था सर्विस टैक्स चार्ज करो. तो देयर यूज्ड टू बी डबल टैक्सेशन. वैट भी लगता था और सर्विस टैक्स भी लगता था. लाइक इन केस ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर 70% के ऊपर सर्विस टैक्स लगता था और 30% के ऊपर वैट लगना चाहिए, लेकिन वो सा नहीं था. 70% के ऊपर सर्विस टैक्स भी लगता था और 70% वैल्यू के ऊपर ये भी लगता था, वैट भी लगता था. एंड कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स पे तो बहुत सारे थे. लेबर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स में डिडक्शन था. ऑन लेबर वी यूज्ड टू पे सर्विस टैक्स, बट द लेबर कंपोनेंट वाज मोर देन व्हाट वाज excluded from the VAT. So there used to be a double taxation on these scenarios of software and construction contracts. So there were double taxation in this VAT system. Then there was no SENVAT after manufacturing state. हमने देखा है ना वो एग्जांपल में कि जो मैन्युफैक्चर है वो चार्ज करता था, उसके ऊपर उसके बाद जो भी टैक्सेस लगता था, मैन्युफैक्चरर जो सेनवैट चार्ज करता था वो क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता था. तो देयर वाज नो सेनवैट आफ्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टेट. व्हाट इज सेनवैट? जो एक्साइज ड्यूटी चार्ज करते हैं उसका क्रेडिट मिलना, उसे सेनवैट कहते हैं. तो अ मैन्युफैक्चरर यूज्ड टू गेट क्रेडिट ऑफ अनदर मैन्युफैक्चरर, लेकिन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के बाद का जो स्टेज है उसके ऊपर क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता था. ओके, देन देयर वाज नो सेट ऑफ सेनवैट एंड वैट. करेक्ट. सेनवैट और वैट को ऑफसेट नहीं कर सकते थे. सेनवैट वाज सेपरेट एंड वैट वाज सेपरेट. दोनों का इनपुट अलग अलग मिलता था, लेकिन सेनवैट और वैट एक दूसरे के साथ मर्ज नहीं होते थे. सिमिलरली वैट और सर्विस टैक्स भी इंटीग्रेट नहीं होते थे. इफ आई एम अ सर्विस प्रोवाइडर, मैं कुछ बुक्स खरीदता हूँ जिसके ऊपर वैट है, उसका क्रेडिट मुझे नहीं मिलता था बिकॉज देयर वाज नो इंटीग्रेशन बिटवीन वैट एंड सर्विस टैक्स. Then non-inclusion of local taxes in state VAT, मतलब लग्जरी टैक्स और एंटरटेनमेंट टैक्स ये स्टेट टैक्सेस थे, लेकिन फिर भी इनका क्रेडिट आपको वैट के साथ ऑफसेट करने को नहीं मिलता था. तो नॉन इंक्लूजन ऑफ लोकल लेवीज इन स्टेट वैट, मतलब लग्जरी टैक्स और एंटरटेनमेंट टैक्स जो भी पे करते थे उसका भी क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता था. कैस्केडिंग ऑफ टैक्सेस, लेवी ऑफ नॉन वैटेबल CST, मतलब when I used to make any interstate purchase, क्या लगता था बोलना था मैंने, whenever I used to do any interstate transaction, CST लगेगा, central sales tax. On this central sales tax, the VAT rate, the rate was very less. It was fixed rate of 2%. पहले 4% था, फिर 3 किया, फिर 2 किया. इतना 4% लगता था ना, तब भी मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता था. सेइंग दैट वो तो CST है, आप वैट जो पे कर रहे हो लोकल वैट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का टैक्स है, उसके ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. तो लेवी ऑफ नॉन वैटेबल CST होते थे. देन इंक्लूजन ऑफ सेनवैट इन द वैल्यू ऑफ इम्पोजिंग वैट, मतलब जो भी टैक्स सामने देखा ना, एक्साइज ड्यूटी, वो एक्साइज ड्यूटी को ऐड करके हम वैट पे करते थे, नॉट ऑन द बेस वैल्यू. So these were the two reasons of cascading of taxes. Okay. Is there a concept like if we get credit for IGST, then it is valid for CGST, or we have credit only of IGST? IGST credit can be utilized with CGST. CGST credit can be utilized for SGST. We have a chart. I'll straight away go to this chart because a lot of people are asking on this. Okay, how does the flow of credit happens? CGST. If I have CGST input tax credit, I have to first utilize it with my CGST output. So this is input, this is output. CGST ITC I can utilize with CGST output, or I can utilize it with IGST. So whatever CGST input is there, first utilize it with CGST output and then utilize it with IGST output. Then SGST input क्या करना है? SGST का input SGST के साथ offset करना है, and then if there is something you can utilize with IGST. Here, so C against C, then with I, S against S, then with I. Then IGST का credit क्या है? I can utilize with IGST. or after utilizing with IGST, I can utilize with CGST and SGST in any proportion. आपका जो मर्जी आए यहाँ पे proportion पे ले समझे. CGST can be utilized with CGST and IGST. SGST can be utilized with SGST and IGST. IGST can be utilized with IGST first and then with CGST and SGST. Okay. So here there could be a potential question. What do you feel was missing over here? UTGST, okay. अगर स्टेट जीएसटी नहीं है तो उस जगह पे यूटीजीएसटी लगा दीजिए. जब यूटीजीएसटी आएगा तो यूटीजीएसटी कैन बी यूटिलाइज विद यूटीजीएसटी देन विद आईजीएसटी, एंड आईजीएसटी कैन बी यूटिलाइज विद आईजीएसटी फर्स्ट देन विद सीजीएसटी और यूटीजीएसटी. जहां पे भी एस है उस जगह पे यूटीजीएसटी रिप्लेस कर दिया. दैट्स नॉट अ बिग डील, दैट्स नॉट मिसिंग. व्हाट इज मिसिंग? क्या लगता है आपको? इज दिस क्रेडिट फ्लो करेक्ट? कुछ ना कुछ क्रेडिट बच जाएगा. No, everybody is saying UTGST. No, UTGST nahi hai. In case of UTGST, see that SGST is there. That's fine. So that's the homework for you. Just remember this chart and tell me what is missing in this. Okay. So we'll get back to our slide. Of the deficiencies in VAT system. Right. So we know what all the deficiencies. Now, can we claim ITC and depreciation on same asset? No. Mohit Kumar, if you are claiming depreciation on some asset, on that depreciation, okay, you cannot claim ITC. मतलब 1 लाख का अपने लैपटॉप खरीदा है, on that 1 लाख चार्ज किया वेंडर ने 18% GST 1,18,000. तो आप असेट कैपिटलाइज कितने का करोगे? 18,000 का इनपुट लेके 1 लाख रुपए 1 लाख रुपए यू विल कैपिटलाइज और आपको डेप्रिसिएशन 1 लाख पे मिलेगा. लेकिन अगर आप 1,18,000 वैल्यू कैपिटल गुड्स में डालते हो, यू आर कैपिटलाइजिंग फुल 1,18,000, तो फिर आपको इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. तो आप जो भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ले रहे हो वहां पे जीएसटी में बेनिफिट लीजिए, उसको आप आईटी इनपुट इनकम टैक्स में उसका डेप्रिसिएशन मत कीजिए. Very good. So, cess is missing? नहीं, cess is not missing. Cess का तो ठीक है, उसका benefit ही अलग है. Few people have answered, but I'll give you an answer in the next session itself. Okay. One more question in that chart was, can I claim SGST of one state with SGST of another state? नहीं. जैसे मैं गया हूं होटल स्टे, दिल्ली में एक सेमिनार था, दिल्ली में गया था. दिल्ली में जब स्टे किया, दिल्ली के होटल ने मुझे क्या चार्ज करेगा वो? हाँ, फर्स्ट दिल्ली का होटल वाला क्या चार्ज करेगा? दिल्ली का होटल वाला मुझे क्या चार्ज करेगा? In IGST, in CGST, ITC, after claiming ITC for IGST, if same remain ITC, then how is it claimed? In CGST of ITC, after claiming ITC of IGST, so you will claim CGST ITC with IGST output, first with CGST output, then if something remains, you will claim it with IGST output. Okay. दिल्ली वाला मुझे, मैं बैंगलोर से जा रहा हूं, लेकिन सब लोग बोल रहे हो अब यूटी जीएसटी चार्ज करें. दिल्ली में यूटी जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा भाई. दिल्ली में तो विथ लेजिस्लेचर है, ठीक है, तो वहां पे जीएसटी सीजीएसटी है. and few people are saying only CGST. ये लंगड़ा कानून नहीं चलेगा, सिर्फ CGST को ही नहीं लगा सकता है. So there is not a possibility of a case that you will be levied only CGST. It always has to be CGST with SGST. So when I go to a restaurant, not a restaurant, to a hotel for stay, they will charge what tax? You people are saying they will charge only SGST. No, they cannot charge me only SGST. They will either have to charge me IGST or they will have to charge me CGST plus SGST. Yeah, Kola Chandra Harshu, tell me what is the answer? It will charge SGST. अरे कैसे लंगड़ा, क्या लंगड़ा चलोगे आप? दोनों पैर रख के लंगड़ा कैसे चलोगे आप? मिस ज्योति, आईजीएसटी का सेट ऑफ आईजीएसटी, सीजीएसटी, एसजीएसटी के साथ होगा, ये मिसिंग है. लास्ट में दिया तो था मैंने, कहाँ मिसिंग है? हर कोई बोल रहा है सीजीएसटी एंड एसजीएसटी, थोड़े लोग आईजीएसटी बोल रहे हो. नेहा सूतर, आप आईजीएसटी कैसे बोल रहे हो? और हर्ष कुमार, हाउ आर यू सेइंग सीजीएसटी एंड एसजीएसटी? Delhi GST and CGST, Jyoti Jha. Why not IGST? So when we are going to another state, location of supplier and place of supply, these are the two things. Location of supplier is his location and place of supply is where? IGST and CGST. Arre baap re. This is out of the box thinking, Mrs. Pali Gautami. IGST and SGST. IGST and CGST. नहीं. IGST एक टैक्स है, CGST और SGST उसका रिप्लेसमेंट है. IGST के साथ CGST दो डबल टैक्स नहीं लगेंगे, क्योंकि या तो फिर CGST और SGST लगेगा या तो IGST लगेगा. अगर IGST लगाएंगे तो कंप्लीट टैक्स है, फिर CGST लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है. अब मैं दूसरे स्टेट में हूं तो ये इंटरस्टेट नहीं होगा. व्हाई नॉट IGST? मुंबई टू मुंबई CGST SGST, मुंबई टू राजस्थान IGST. नेहा सुतर, स्नेहा बाग, सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस ऑफ होटल ऑफ दिल्ली, कैन यू एक्सप्लेन दैट? इट विल हेल्प टू आंसर. Yeah, so I've gone for a stay to Delhi. I am in Bangalore and I'm going and staying there. So they will charge me GST. They will provide me bill of stay for 15,000 rupees. On the 15,000 rupees, they have to charge me GST. What GST they will charge? So यहाँ पे दिल्ली का होटल वाला CGST लेगा क्योंकि आपके सर्विस यहाँ ली है, वहां ली है, लेकिन मैं तो वहां पे रजिस्टर नहीं हूं ना. मैं तो यहाँ पे रजिस्टर हूँ मेरे स्टेट में. वहां पे क्यों रजिस्ट्रेशन लूंगा मैं? तो मैं कहां पर भी जाऊं घूमने के लिए उससे उस स्टेट का रजिस्ट्रेशन लूं? मैं तो रजिस्ट्रेशन सिर्फ कर्नाटक का लिया हूं मैं. ठीक है. नो मोर आंसर्स. आपके सभी के आंसर्स आ गए, बट वेरिंग आंसर्स है. Few are saying IGST, few are saying CGST and SGST. The correct answer is CGST and SGST because the location of supplier कौन है? होटल वाला, who is in Delhi. Location of supplier and location of receiver नहीं बोला मैंने. Location of supplier and place of supply. तो सप्लाई कहाँ पे कर रहा है? दिल्ली में ही कर रहा है ना. तो दिल्ली वाला जब दिल्ली में ही सप्लाई कर रहा है तो वो CGST and SGST ही चार्ज करेगा. तो whoever gave the answer that it is CGST and SGST, that is the correct answer. IGST वो चार्ज नहीं कर सकता है, even though I can give him कि भाई मेरा GST रजिस्ट्रेशन कर्नाटका का है, ये पकड़ और IGST डाल. IGST नहीं डाल सकता है वो CGST और SGST ही डालेगा because his location is there and his place of supply is there itself. तो CGST and SGST ही डालेगा. Now, if that person has given me a bill for hotel accommodation मैं उसका क्रेडिट ले सकता हूं क्या कर्नाटका में? नहीं ले सकता हूँ, करेक्ट. Most of you are giving right answer. The CGST and SGST of one state cannot be claimed as a credit in another state. वो हैंडशेक ही नहीं करेगा, मुझे क्रेडिट दिखेगा ही नहीं, मुझे अलो ही नहीं करेगा. So if I take any software services from a vendor, services जब वो provide कर रहा है, he is located outside the state, but I am the place of supply. In that case becomes in Karnataka. There he will charge me IGST. I can claim the credit. But this CGST and SGST charged in another state cannot be credit of my state. So if I have to claim credit, I have to buy locally. If I buy locally, they will supply me with CGST and SGST. That credit I can claim. That is CGST and Karnataka SGST can be claimed by a Karnataka person or a person who is supplying from outside the state IGST. That credit can be claimed. Okay, but SGST and CGST charge of another state will not come to me. Okay, credit cannot be taken. Got this? Clear. Homework का question next class में बोलेंगे. Most of you are giving correct answer, but फिर भी next class में बताएंगे आपको. Another question, sir, if goods are sent to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Delhi, from Mumbai to Delhi, from one state to another state, from दिल्ली भी मैं स्टेट ही बोलूंगा बिकॉज उसका तो अलग से लेजिस्लेशन है. सो फ्रॉम मुंबई टू दिल्ली आईजीएसटी विल बी चार्ज्ड. करेक्ट. So this is the cascading of taxes. Next, what is the framework of GST India? Dual GST. करेक्ट. डुअल जीएसटी मतलब एक सेंटर का जीएसटी है और स्टेट का जीएसटी है. क्या क्या जीएसटी है? सीजीएसटी, एसजीएसटी और यूटीजीएसटी और आईजीएसटी. और उसके बाद कॉम्पनसेशन सेस भी है. करेक्ट. फिर व्हाट इज द लेजिस्लेटिव फ्रेमवर्क? लेजिस्लेटिव फ्रेमवर्क मतलब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में अमेंडमेंट होके लेजिस्लेटिव फ्रेमवर्क आया हुआ है. देन अंडर जीएसटी अनदर फीचर क्या है? देयर इज अ क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. ओके, इवन दो देयर इज अ वन टैक्स, लेकिन गुड्स और सर्विस को अलग रखा है क्योंकि गुड्स का स्ट्रक्चर अलग होता है, गुड्स का रेट्स अलग होता है और सर्विसेज के रेट्स अलग होते हैं. ओके, सो देयर इज अ क्लासिफिकेशन बिटवीन गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. देन रजिस्ट्रेशन का लिमिट्स होता है, सेइंग दैट इफ यू क्रॉस अ सर्टेन लिमिट. ठीक है, हम रजिस्ट्रेशन में फिर से पढ़ेंगे, बट अभी समझिए जनरली क्या होता है. 20 lakhs और 40 lakhs का लिमिट्स रहता है. So if 20 lakhs का value of services I cross, then I have to take registration, and if I cross 40 lakhs, then I have to take registration for goods. But special category की states है, उनके लिए 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs लिखा है, वो हम चार्ट के बाद we'll explain, understand that later. But understand that registration के लिए limits है. These limits if I cross, okay, then I have to pay GST irrespective of my sales afterwards. So the limit is for registration. If I cross this limit, irrespective of my sales afterwards, I have to continue to pay GST. Okay, suppose 20 lakhs is the value of services. I have crossed 10 lakhs and I have taken voluntary registration. Then my sales did not touch 20 lakhs at all. क्योंकि 10 लाख जब था, जोश था, मैंने ले लिया, चलो चलो रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लेंगे, 10 लाख हो गया, 20 लाख पहुंच जाएगा 2 महीने में, बाद में कौन रजिस्ट्रेशन लेता है, अभी ले लो. तो मैंने रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया है भाई. अब रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने के बाद वो जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आना था ना, वो आया नहीं. अब क्या करूं? लिमिट कितना है? 20 लाख. मैंने 10 लाख पे ले लिया है, तो अभी मैं बैलेंस के ऊपर जीएसटी पे भी नहीं करूंगा. गवर्नमेंट समझेगा क्या आपकी बात को? नहीं समझेगा. रजिस्ट्रेशन भैया, आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया है तो आपको कंप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. और एक और एग्जांपल, 20 लाख का लिमिट है, आई हैव क्रॉस 20 लाख दिस ईयर, आई हैव टेकन रजिस्ट्रेशन. नेक्स्ट ईयर मेरा तो 5 लाख भी नहीं होने वाला है. कोविड चला गया है, ठीक है, कुछ और वजह से 5 लाख तक की सेल है, मेरा 10 लाख भी नहीं पहुंच रहा है, तो क्यों जीएसटी पे करूं मैं? लिमिट 20 लाख था, लास्ट ईयर लिमिट बढ़ गया था, हो गया, इस साल क्यों भरूं जीएसटी? भैया, तो लिमिट इज फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन। आप एक बार रजिस्ट्रेशन वॉलेंट्री ले ले हो या थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट टच होने पे ले रहे हो, आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन का पंगा हो गया है, आप रजिस्ट्रेशन ले चुके हो, वंस यू हैव टेकन रजिस्ट्रेशन, तो फिर आपको जीएसटी का कंप्लायंस करना ही पड़ेगा, ठीक है? देन यू कैन नॉट टेल मेरा लिमिट कम हो गया, मैं जीएसटी नहीं भरूंगा। भाई लिमिट कम हो गया और आपको लगता है फ्यूचर में भी नहीं होगा, तो आप जीएसटी कैंसिल कर दीजिए, बट वंस यू आर रजिस्टर्ड, कंटिन्यू टू पे, कलेक्ट एंड पे टैक्सेशन। When does location of supply and place of supply is same, then CGST and SGST apply. Correct. Sir Faraz, please ask me your questions. Your questions are reaching me. Delhi is union territory now, then why CGST and SGST is coming? ज्योति जी, दिल्ली में लेजिस्लेचर है तो वो फिर SGST ही गिना जाएगा। जो ये दिल्ली और पुदुचेरी है, ये स्पेशल कैटेगरी स्टेट्स हैं, स्पेशल कैटेगरी नहीं, सॉरी, दीज आर यूनियन टेरिटरीज विथ लेजिस्लेशन, तो इनका SGST ही लगेगा। 10 lakhs for Tripura, Nagaland and Mizoram. Yes, there are 4 special category states where the limit is 10 lakh rupees. What is the benefit of GST to business? The benefit of GST to business is you can collect taxes on whatever sales you make, and you can claim credit on whoever has charged you GST. So these are the benefit of GST to businesses. What is the difference between registered person and taxable person? A registered person is one who is registered under GST. A taxable person is one who has crossed the limit and who is liable for registration, which means if I cross the limit, I am a taxable person and I have to pay taxes. Now, if I register, then I have a right to collect from the customer. But if I don't register, I have to pay from my pocket. Lot of difference, no? So if I cross the limit, can I say I'm not registered and I'm not collecting the taxes, I will not pay to the government? No. Once you have crossed the threshold limit, you are supposed to register. If you don't want to register, no problem. But taxes जो हमको वसूली करना है, वो आपको देना ही है. तो जीएसटी को वसूली करना है, जो ये जीएसटी कलेक्ट करेगा, वो कलेक्ट भी कर सकता है, पे भी कर सकता है, लेकिन जो कलेक्ट कर ही नहीं रहा है वो उसके पॉकेट से पे करेगा, बिकॉज आपका लिमिट तो क्रॉस हो गया भैया, आपको पे करना पड़ेगा. ओके. जम्मू एंड कश्मीर ऑल्सो, यस, J&K also is a state. Now Jammu and Kashmir, there is a division wherein they have a union territory of Ladakh and union territory of Jammu. So union territory of Ladakh is separate, union territory of Jammu is separate. Union territory of Ladakh, I think I'll confirm to you, one of the union territories has legislation and one does not have. As in the hotel example, as it was service industry, input could not be claimed, but it was good input could have been claimed. No, it was not claimable because it was in another state and I couldn't claim the credit. Name of the states? No, you don't have to learn name of the states. If supplier is not registered, then how can I claim ITC on it, as it will not reflect on portal? If supplier is not registered, then he will not charge you GST. So there's no question of ITC in case of a supplier who is not registered. But if supplier is registered, then you can claim the credit. Taxable person is a subset of registered person. Registered person is a subset of taxable person. Taxable person includes both registered and unregistered person whose threshold limit is gone. So registered person is a subset of taxable person. Threshold limit exceeding during the financial year. So should I take registration this year or next year? If I cross the threshold limit this year, I have to take it this year itself, not the next year. We have to take it in the year in which you have crossed the threshold limit. So Ladakh is a union territory without legislature, and Jammu and Kashmir is with legislature. So Jammu and Kashmir will be treated as J&K SGST Act, and Ladakh will have a UT GST Act. Legislative framework, classification of goods and services, registration. Then there is a composition scheme, right? When we go on supply, I will tell you what is a composition scheme, wherein instead of paying the full rate of tax and claiming the credit, they have a scheme wherein you are a trader or a manufacturer who is having less turnover. Less turnover matlab below 1.5 crores, then you can pay small tax, that is 1% and 2% tax, but you will not be getting the benefit of claiming the input tax credit. So if you are okay with not claiming the credit and you want to pay composition scheme, you can go for the composition scheme. Then there are exemptions. There are separate exemptions for goods, exemption for services. So anybody who's falling under these exempt services and providing such service will be called as exempt supply. Okay. And there is a seamless flow of credit. Matlab, anybody charging you tax, you can claim the credit. That is the meaning of seamless flow of credit. We understood the seamless flow of credit. Now, let's have a practical understanding of the seamless flow of credit with again, a Excel example. When GST is applicable for a software company, if a software company is providing software services, then if it is crosses 20 lakhs, then it has to pay GST. So is there any special benefit for UT with legislature compared to without legislature? No benefit. UT with legislature will be treated having its own state GST law. But in case of a UT without legislature, whatever is a UT GST law common for all the union territories, that will apply to them. In the hotel bill, why GST stated separately? Food items includes GST. Why then stated again? Your question is not clear, Tota Suburao. Can you please explain again? Suppose GST number is taken voluntary in the month of March, but could not sell. GST return of nil has to be filed? Yes. Once you take a registration and irrespective of your supply, you will have to file nil GST. मतलब आपको zero values डाल के भी file करना है. Once you're registered, you have to file your returns. Yeah, so why few states have less threshold limit? Because they were small states. Okay, out of the 11 special category states, only 4 states says that we need the benefit. Others special category states, no, we are fine with the higher limit. We don't want to manage small traders and small service providers. So let us continue with the bigger thing. So the central government gave an option to the states. Out of these 11 special category states, the 4 only have opted in. Others did not opt in. So it's up to the state prerogative. So there are 2 registered persons, one in Delhi, one in Mumbai. Delhi person makes a supply from a shop in Delhi. Mumbai person arranges for shipment. What type of GST is applicable? So it's moving of goods from Delhi to Mumbai. So it is a IGST transaction. Getting tax benefit means, sir, it is ultimately burden on customer. Yeah, it's ultimately burden on customer, but getting tax benefit means you will get tax benefit at the intermediate level, not at the final customer's level. While I had applied for registration, when you have applied for GST registration, but you have got it little late, during that period, whatever taxes sales you make, you have to collect taxes. And once you get your GST registration certificate, you will have to revise your invoice and give it to the customer. There's no homework as such. One homework, what I've given Mohammad Islam, that itself is a thing. Otherwise, I have some questions are multiple choice questions at the end of the session, after end of the topic. If somebody gives services online, like freelancer, will they have to register for GST? Yes. Anybody as such. So anybody who's crossing the threshold limit, if you're crossing the threshold limit and if you're doing online, offline, anywhere, you have to register. If one has surrendered his GST in 2020 but plans to open it again in 2022, can he get the same GST number? He will not get the same GST number because it will be PAN based. First number will be same. He will get a different GST number, not the same number. Okay. Okay, we'll understand the flow of credit in the next class. We'll understand the other theoretical aspects and then we'll go to the practical question again. Then what are the other frameworks of GST? GST has a common portal which is called as gst.gov.in, which is used for filing all your GST returns and things. And we have a e-waybill GST for raising the e-waybill. What is the e-waybill? When I make any movement of goods beyond the limit of 50,000 rupees, this goods has to be accomplished by a number which gets generated from the e-waybill portal. Because any goods getting transported, and if the officer wants to intercept it, he will ask for the e-waybill. The e-waybill will have the details of all the invoices so that there is no fake movement of goods. So we have to upload all the details in the e-waybill, and that e-waybill has to be given along with the invoice. So he will cross-check what are the details mentioned in the e-waybill, whether the goods existing and the e-waybill is matching. Okay, so that's the importance of an e-waybill. So e-waybill has to be taken only for interstate? No, everywhere, interstate and intrastate, both the cases, e-waybill has to be generated. Then invoice registration portal. So now there is a limit saying about 10 crores. If you make any sales, then you have to register in your invoice registration portal. It's called as IRP. So e-invoicing has to be raised. That e-invoicing will be raised in a invoice registration portal. Okay. Then there is a concept of GSPs and ASPs. GST Suvidha providers and additional Suvidha providers who will interact with the GST portal and your systems. You will have lot data to be uploaded. Right? Suppose a Airtel company, they have so many sales. They will not be in a position to directly make manual entries in the GST portal filing returns. So they will handshake with the GSP or ASP, and all their data from the ERP gets converted and filed on the GST portal. Right? Then they have composition cess, मतलब जो भी luxury goods है, aerated drinks है, tobacco products है, on that additionally compensation cess is levied. Then taxes as goods on services are levied. On all goods and services, GST is levied except for following things. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, इसके ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, state excise duty and VAT is levied. Okay, state excise is still there. Yes, sir. On human alcoholic liquor for human consumption, state excise and VAT is still there. Petroleum, crude, diesel, petrol, air turbine fuel, and natural gas. On this, central excise duty and VAT is levied. What is central excise duty, state excise duty? Whatever is the excise duty levied by the central government is central excise duty. The excise duty collected by the state is the state excise. So on these 5 petroleum products, central excise duty plus VAT is levied, or CST, because if it's an interstate movement, then CST will be levied. Then on tobacco, central excise duty and GST both are levied. Because some goods, yes, GST is there, old tax is completely gone. But on certain specific goods, the state government or the central government all still needs the revenue. So that's the reason on tobacco products, state excise duty is also levied and GST both are levied. On opium, Indian hemp and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST is levied. Then on immovable property, no GST is levied. Okay, that is the structure of GST. Important, this slide is very, very important. Note this down. This may come for MCQs because they might ask what is the duty levied on petroleum, crude, on or other petroleum products. You have to know whether it is state excise or central excise and whether VAT or GST. Like tobacco, central excise and GST is levied. On petroleum products, central excise and VAT is levied. Okay. If lawyer is unregistered person and supply service in SEZ unit, so the receiver should pay GST in the RCM? Yes, GST on lawyer services, RCM has to be paid by the SEZ also. Applying for GST is a tough or simple procedure, very simple procedure. Getting the GST could be tough, but that could be answered to the officer and we can get it. So can a person register in 2 states? Yes, he can register in 2 states. He can register within the states also 2 registrations, or in multiple states also he can take registration. I have GST number and I want to cancel it, but I can't know the user ID and password, and the email entered in the website is not accessible. I only have GST number and mobile number. Can it be cancelled? Yes. You can go to the GST respective department and ask them for the new login and password. They will give it and you can apply for cancellation. What is the GST rate for building and real estate? So if it is a small house or a big house, it will depends on that. If it's a small project, then it is 1%. Affordable housing, it is 1%, and non-affordable housing, it is 5%. So I've generated so many e-way bills from 2011-16. Is there any GST levied on e-way bills nowadays? No, GST is not levied on any e-way bills. E-way bill is a system related information which you have to give the information and get the e-way bill. But if there is something called as a e-invoicing, wherein your invoice you have to upload online and get a IRN number. So that is a separate process. Tobacco is out of GST? No, tobacco is not out of GST. Tobacco is leviable to GST, central excise and GST both are levied. How does RCM works? We will discuss on RCM at a later point of time. But understand that there is something called as RCM which levied on certain services, like legal services provided to any businesses. We have to pay. The businesses who is taking the services from the lawyer has to pay the GST on that. Immobile property means land and building. No, immobile property means only land. So that's why I said immobile property, but building, except building, because they have given under a separate schedule, because building is under construction. So that's why on building, GST is leviable. Because building is under the process. No, it is not building which you're selling. After getting the occupancy certificate, if you sell, then GST is not applicable, because that time you're selling a immobile property itself, right? Wherein building is constructed. But before construction, when it's in the construction stage, the builder is providing you a service of doing the building and selling it to you. That's why on that GST is still applicable. You told a part of IGST is credited to respective state. Which state? So the state wherein the GST has to go. So the not the supplier state where the supply is going, the receiver state, it will have to go there. Okay, so those were the points which we had to discuss. Next class, we'll take on the balance of this topic and we'll cover this topic completely in the next class. What is the tax rate applicable for CA firm service? Generally, it is 18%. Services, I could say, generally 18%. And CA services also, most of the services are 18% itself. Any case where hotels levy IGST, generally no, hotels cannot levy IGST. They should levy CGST and SGST itself. But if they're providing any other services other than stay, then it will be different. But otherwise, if they're providing stay services, it will be CGST and SGST. What is the difference among cancellation of GST and suspension of GST? When I apply for cancellation, the officer have to look for it whether we are complied or no. So he will suspend the GST. So that duration is called suspension. During suspension, if there's any question he has to ask, any documents to be paid, then we will pay that. We will pay that or give him the documents. Then if he's satisfied, he will cancel it. That is called cancellation. Had a very good interactive session. Keep continuing with your questions. I'm really happy. And if there's anything else which is left out in today's class, you can discuss in next class. For IP transfer, is GST applicable? Yes, in IP transfer also GST is applicable. Okay, good night, everybody.